Okay. I'd like to call to order the April 24th, 2013 meeting of the Milton School Committee. And I invite you to stand as you're able with us and salute the flag.
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Mr. Chair, could I suggest we have a moment of silence for the victims of the Boston Marathon bombings?
I think it's a fine idea. Thank you. Tonight, there's actually two regular meetings. One is a meeting required under the Mass General laws on the issue of school choice. Tonight was posted as a school choice open hearing. School choice is an annual procedure in Massachusetts, and unless a school committee votes otherwise, all school systems are school choice systems by default. Milton has not been part of this for a number of years. Basically what happens is it opens up seats in the school system to people from other towns if there are seats available. And so it's an option that the school systems have. It's a vote that we will have to take before June 15th, and every year a public hearing is required to solicit input. Tonight was advertised as such a public hearing, and so pursuant to that, I will ask, is there anyone who wishes to speak to the issue of school choice at the annual school choice open hearing? Fine. Seeing none, then we will close the open hearing and move on with our regular agenda. We have a variety of items here, but I would suggest that as part of it, we defer our approval of minutes until after we have the superintendent's report, where we have numerous people here being recognized. I would just as soon get them up here more quickly than later. And also under the Finance Subcommittee report, we also have an additional item that's just come up on synthetic turf replacement, and that involves a vote. It's something that has arisen at the last minute since the agenda went to press. So I would, with moving the minutes till after the superintendent's report and that addition to finance, are there any other additions to tonight's agenda?
I have one more. We had a lengthy discussion at Policy Committee last time about how we should approach that, and I believe I have a solution that will address the concerns that were raised and move us forward.
So what would you like to do that?
I would like to call it at the beginning, actually, the Policy Subcommittee report. Rather than start to discuss policies, I would propose that item A read Policy Committee Operation Procedures.
Okay. So we'll do that at the beginning of Policy Committee report. Yes, Ms. Bagley-Jones.
Glenn, can we also add after the visitors somewhere, since this is your last meeting tonight for the school committee, right?
Yes.
Unless you want to stay. It would be nice if we had a chance to say some things when the guests have left. So you need to add a moment or two for your fellow school committee members.
Well, we'll see about
Well,
that. All right. Anything else for tonight's agenda? All right. Hearing none, we'll declare the agenda approved. Do we have anyone for citizen speak? Seeing none, then we'll move on. The approval of minutes are deferred, and we'll go right to the superintendent's report. Superintendent Gormley.
Thank you, Chairman Pavlicek. First, I'd like to invite our athletic director, Steve Traster, to the table to join us. And these first two items, recognizing our athletic teams and our Glover Site Council, two good news stories. I'm going to turn this part of the agenda over to Steve Traster to invite up the coaches and the student athletes so that the school committee can hear about their achievements and recognize them.
Thank you so much. Is this on?
No.
Go ahead.
No?
I can use the other one. I want to give it to the coaches when they come up. So thank you for having us, and we have a bunch of athletes and a bunch of coaches from a very successful winter season. At one of your last school committee meetings, you recognized the sectional finalists of the boys basketball team, but we had two other teams make state tournaments as teams, and we had many individuals. So I would like to call up their representatives of their coaches, some captains and some individuals, and let them talk about the exploits of their outstanding winter seasons. So first up, I'd like the boys hockey coach, Coach Paul Noonan, and his athletes who qualified for the MIA Division I South tournament in boys hockey. Okay. You can talk loud.
Thank you for having us. Thank you to the school committee for everything you've done for us and the high school. My name is Paul Noonan. I'm the boys hockey coach here at the high school. We were here this time last year for a very successful season, but that's the way it goes sometimes. We lost in the first round this past season. We lost a lot of seniors from last year's team. So the success of these individuals this past year was actually astonishing. So we lost in the state tournament to eventual South champions, Marshfield, but we played them as closely as any of the other teams they beat. So we're really proud of our players for that. You can't succeed without leadership. We had two excellent captains this year, in Pat Miller and Brendan Kelly. And junior Connor Shea will be one of our leaders next season. So, anything you guys want to say to the school committee? No? If I could get them to be this quiet during the season, that would be great. But again, we thank you all for your support, and hopefully we continue to have a successful program. Thank you.
Thank you, Coach. I'd like to next bring up our girls hockey coach, Coach Bob Allen, and his athletes who qualified for the MIA Division II state tournament, which is the first time in 4 years for our girls program. Coach Allen.
We have a little crowd, so, but they deserve it. One, thank you for having us tonight. Really appreciate it. I know the girls really appreciated it as well. You know, we had a great season, and as you see by the show, they really became a real team over the course of the year, and I'm so proud of them. It's the first time in 3 years that they made it to the States, and it's all due to their hard work. So I thank you for having us. I credit the leadership of all 8 seniors, especially the 3 captains, Courtney Driscoll, Erin Higgins, and Julie Rush. And I'd like to introduce the new captains for next year, Sarah Park, wave, Kate Driscoll, and Hannah O'Leary.
Steve, they can take the mic and pass it down and identify themselves. They can identify themselves.
Say your name.
Courtney Driscoll, Erin Higgins, Julie Rush, Monica Reardon, Allison Kelly, Elizabeth Johnson, Grace Driscoll, Hannah O'Leary, Caroline Johnson, Mackenzie Stanley, Sarah Park, Kate Driscoll, Megan McDougall.
And one last point of the 8 seniors that are leaving us, I just want to acknowledge that the schools that they're going to next year. You know, Plymouth State, one still has a choice between BC, Trinity, RPI, and Connecticut College, High Point, St. Lawrence, Sacred Heart, Merrimack, or St. A's. We'll choose St. A's for that one, okay? Providence, and Emmanuel College. So, very proud of you girls. Good job.
Thank you, thank you. Congratulations on a great year. The next program on the agenda, again, I've said this at school committee a few times. I know it's been reiterated by Superintendent Gormley. I'm losing track of years now, but 4 or 5 years ago, we had 4 wrestlers in our wrestling program. This year, we had 6 qualify for the state meet, and 2 went on to New England's. We had an unbelievable season. We finished 14-4. And we are competing among the best in the best league in the state as far as wrestling. And a lot of that is obviously the kids are working hard. It is not an easy sport, but a lot of that credit goes to our head coach Ted Carroll. So I'd like to call Coach Ted Carroll up and any members of the wrestling program, which is Jonathan Carrera. A couple of them had rugby night games tonight.
Yeah, there's a bunch of them at rugby. Thank you very much for having us. It was a good year. Unfortunately, the MIAA did away with the team tournament this year. We would have qualified for the state tournament this year if there was a team tournament, but so it was really all individual tournaments. And to go to the state tournament, you need to finish in the top 4 of the sectional tournament. We had 6 kids qualify for the state tournament, including 2, Jonathan Carrera here and Peter Heiler, who won the D2 South section. The other guys were Keith Martin, Mark Chandler, Anton Lipsch, and Zach Mazzarella. Jonathan and Peter Heiler won the D2 South section. And then we went to the state tournament. You have to finish top 6 to qualify for the all-state tournament. Jonathan finished second. Peter Heiler finished second. And this was all during those crazy snowstorms, and it was very condensed, the state tournament. And then at the all-state tournament, if you finish top 6 in that, you qualify for New England's. Jonathan again and Pete both finished 4th in the all-state tournament, which is unbelievable. And they qualified for the New England tournament. It was down in Providence. They both made it to the second day of the New England tournament. They both went 2-2 just out of qualifying. But it was a very, very good year, especially they wrestled till the absolute last day that you could wrestle. So it was a great year. You want to say anything? All right, well, thank you very much for having me.
Thank you.
Can we just
Jonathan
say,
is a junior. He'll be back next year as well.
Coach, I would like to say something. As a former wrestler, I know that there's no sport that's a better combination of speed, strength, and toughness or conditioning. So congratulations to you, young man, and also what you've done with this program in the short amount of time is utterly amazing. So congratulations.
and he also needs to be recognized as the Coach of the Year. You were nominated by your peers, is that correct, Coach Carroll? So
I was going to do that one.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Division II South.
Just
ahead,
a
Steve.
huge.
He's the
huge
Division II
contribution.
South Coach of the Year in the state, so we want to congratulate Coach Carroll on that. Not only has he been successful in our community, but it was recognized throughout the state.
And before they leave, they tease me that all of the staff members and all of the students and all of the coaches are my favorite. And so the other day, Mr. Pavlicek and I live on the same street as the Carrolls. And so Coach's father saw me the other day and said, "Oh, Mary, your favorite coach." So I said, he understands, and it brings it home with parents in the audience that we all might become adults, but how this wrestling, you've really created something in the whole town, and the pride that your neighbors and your family have in you, and we have in all of our coaches and all of our student athletes. But on behalf of your father, he wanted a special recognition tonight.
Next up, I'd like to call Coach Paula Jamian, who is our boys and girls ski team coach, and they had an outstanding year with individuals going very far into the state tournament. So again, Coach Paula Jamian and some of his ski representatives.
Thank you very much. I'd like to introduce 2 of our captains here who made it to the state tournament this year. Sophie Chase and Lucas Campbell. And young freshman, Shay Roulan. Shay qualified for the state tournament by coming in 10th. There was a two-way tie for that last position. Shay and Sophie. Sophie beat her out by just a hair, but Shay was nice enough to come up to Berkshire East this past winter and help gatekeep during the championship race. Milton participates in the Mass Bay Ski League East Conference. There are 11 schools. From each school, we race 8 boys and 8 girls. They do slalom and giant slalom. The day of the state race, both Lucas and Sophie, and unfortunately Tori Zimmer, who is not here today, raced both slalom and giant slalom. Lucas and Sophie had excellent races, but the real head turner for the day was Tori Zimmer, who finished 5th in the league, 5th in the state of Massachusetts in the slalom race. She had a fantastic afternoon that day. Matter of fact, Tori was selected to the All-Massachusetts ski team that participated at a regional race at Cannon Mountain in March. There were 15 states represented, and Tori had a fabulous weekend at Cannon Mountain during the month of March. We had a great season. I had terrific leadership from my captains, Sophie, Lucas, and unfortunately, Tori can't be here tonight. Tori's playing tennis, so she couldn't make it. Thank you very much for having us here, and we really appreciate all the support you've given us, Ms. Gormley, over the years. Thank you very much, everyone.
Thank you. Next up, I'd like to bring our boys indoor track coach, Coach Chuckajamian, and his captains and individuals. The boys indoor track team won our only, has thus far has won our only Bay State League championship this year. They won the Herget Division in indoor track and had a very successful run in the individual state tournament as well. So I'll turn the mic over to longtime coach Chuckajamian.
Thank you. Thank you for having us here. Track is a sport where the work you put in pays off. And I brought some of my captains here, but I also brought a young man. I'm going to start with him first. Young man down there, Curvins Jean-Philippe. Curvins last year, I believe, threw 32 feet in the shot put. Was that correct? 33 feet? You can correct me. 35. Right now, he throws 43 feet. And that is because all the work and the hard work he puts in, not only with myself, but I have a volunteer, Mr. John Walker, who's a townsperson who helps us out, volunteers his time, and has helped Curvins with that hard work to throw 43 feet. He won the shot put today, and he's really either first or second in all our meets, and really is a big part of our team. I'm very lucky to be able to have guys like Curvins, and right now I'm going to my captains. I have Miles Holland, Nick Orlando, and Nick Savage. Today we had a meet, and Wellesley was very good in the distances, and it came down. We just had to break up one of those distance events, and the half mile is one of the distance events, and it came down to the 800, and Nick Savage is probably one of the toughest kids I've coached in a long time, and he battled the battle and got second place, and that really kind of put us over the top. And that's the determination and the hard work that these guys all show every day, and it's a pleasure to coach them. Now, Mr. Holland here, if you're looking for the student athlete, this is him. He is so dedicated, and I have so many young kids, and this guy steps up, and he's like their coach. And it's a pleasure to have him, and it's a pleasure to see him off to college. And where are you going now?
Brown University.
Brown University. That's the hard work that I get every day. And then probably one of the most talented kids, Mr. Milton, right there. He finished first in the long jump in Division III. He was fourth in the high jump and fourth in the hurdles. Probably would have gone on to the state meet and done even better. Unfortunately, the great coaching of myself, I got him in to work out at the Reggie Lewis Center the week before the meet, and he pulled a hamstring. Yeah, it was great coaching. But he tried, but I had to shut him down. But that's the dedication that we get every day. And I appreciate the work that they put in, and I appreciate the support we get from the school committee. Thank you.
Thank you, gentlemen. Thank you, Coach. Just for a brief second before we bring up the last group, one of our champion wrestlers just walked in. If I could have Pete Heiler come up, just so he can be recognized. He was one of the ones, along with Jonathan, that qualified for the New Englands and won the was in the Division II South section. So he just showed up, but I just want to thank him and personally congratulate him on a great year and a great 4 years as a wrestler, but really stepped up as a senior and has been a big part of the turnaround in the wrestling program. So I want to recognize Pete. And did Mr. Snyder make it back up, or was able to stay? So that's good. Dale Snyder, who is our girls' indoor and outdoor track coach, as well as our cross-country coach. He had his last home track meet today, so there was a little celebration outside for him. He is retiring after countless years at Milton High and countless seasons. He is a MSTCA Hall of Famer, was elected a few years ago, does an outstanding job. So Dale Snyder, some of his outstanding athletes from the winter season, and his assistant coach, Kerry Devon, I would like to bring you up to be recognized. Thank you.
Hi, I'm Kerry Devon. I'm the assistant coach. I had the honor of being on Dale's team for 4 years when I was in high school. But this season for indoor track, we had a very successful season. Molly Dempsey and Angie Higgins both made it to all states. Molly is a senior. She ran the 55 hurdles. She got 5th at states and then qualified for all states. Angie Higgins is a junior, so we're excited to have her back next year. She placed 1st for states, 5th for all states, and qualified for New England's and made it to New England's. These two, as well as Zion Theodosio, made it to the pentathlon and got 4th at the team pentathlon. So we had a very successful season, and Zion is a sophomore, Angie's a junior, so it's good to come.
Great. Thank you, ladies. Thank you, Coach.
And I think before Dale Schneider is able to leave the camera, on behalf of the Milton Public Schools, thousands of young men and women, and what you have done for track in Milton and Massachusetts, we are indebted to you. We know you're modest. You're like Kerry, athletes came back that were in university or have graduated, and from the bottom of my heart, I want to thank you for what you've given to the Milton Public Schools and the Milton Public School students. Thank you. You are a legend.
Thank you so much. And I just want to thank the coaches and the athletes to come out tonight. A lot of them are involved in spring seasons, and a lot of people see the fruits of their labor during games or competitions, but the amount of work that the coaches and players and athletes put in the off-season and daily practices is really astounding, and it's really a pleasure to see them grow, much like Chuck talked about Curvins. He is a hard worker. You might have not thought he was going to be a great athlete as a freshman, but he worked hard, he stuck with it, and has turned into an outstanding athlete. And all of them are great student athletes, and we get a lot of compliments from we don't always win, but we had a very successful winter season, obviously. That's one of our most successful seasons in the 6 years I've been the athletic director. But we always get complimented on sportsmanship, our coaches, their work ethic, and our athletes, how they play and compete throughout the year. So I just want to thank you guys for letting us come and be recognized, and thanks the coaches and the players and the athletes for coming out to take out their Wednesday night and be available. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Steve. Next, we'd like to invite to the school committee table the Glover Site Council. And for the viewing public, each of our schools present under the leadership of their principal. Tonight, joining us, we have our co-principals, Ms. Stephanie Nephew and Ms. Holly Concanon, joined with Kristen Pallett, 5th grade co-taught teacher and site council member, and some exciting students in the audience who will join us. So we want to welcome the site council here this evening. Ms. Nephew, Ms. Concanon?
Thank you. Okay. So I first want to just recognize that the beginning of the school year started with Drew Eckelson as principal. And I do want to just acknowledge the work that he did from July through January. You know, school improvement plans are 3-year plans that have specific initiatives that we're working on. And I will say that through the summer, Drew and I worked very closely, sort of making sure that he understood what the plan was. The idea was not for him to come in and make changes and shift to another direction. And we did speak throughout the fall as well to ensure that we were sort of moving forward in the right direction. And I will say that it was a special form of professional development to be working with him as he led the school through the fall. So I do want to recognize the work that he did and thank him for that. So this improvement plan came through our site council, which consists of 3 teachers and 3 parents. We do meet monthly to review the improvement plan, to review the data, and to assess what we need to do moving forward. So I want to start just by looking at some of our data, and I want to also recognize that we're looking at MCAS data. It's just one piece of data that helps us understand where our kids are and what they need. But this is our MCAS data from from last year. What you're seeing right now is some our growth data in mathematics. If you look at the X that is sort of in the middle of the chart, that is where the state is in terms of growth. And we represent the dark gray circle and the yellow circle. Dark gray is our 4th grade, and the yellow is our 5th grade. So what you can see is that we are in the right quadrant. We are looking at, we're in the higher achievement and the higher growth section, specifically our 5th grade being very high in both growth and achievement. So that's where we want to be. If you look at our English language arts data, similar, you see the X is sort of in the middle, that's where the state is. And then you look at our data, the yellow being the 5th grade, the dark gray being the 4th grade in English language arts, both again in that high growth and high achievement section of the chart. So in general, how did we do? We met the target for our general population of students as well as our subgroups, looking at low-income students and students with disabilities. We met the target for both groups. This year, we were recognized and commended from the state for high progress. So in addition to looking at sort of the general information of how we did, again in the MCAS data, we wanted to take a closer look at some of the achievement gap information.
So looking at collecting data is done in vain unless we take that data and use it for instruction. And some of the questions we think about are how we perform as a school, as a district, and then in comparison with the state. In looking at our data, we have seen that we've made great progress, and I'd like to show you a slide that compares our school to schools that are comparable to the Glover. If you look at this list, these schools are comparable because we have an enrollment that is similar. We have a low-income special education and an English language learner population that is also similar. The blue highlights the highest scoring, but I would like to point out that in English language arts, you'll see that we received an 87% in comparison with their 77%. We also exceed their scores in math. We do have some work to do in science. When thinking about how we compare with the state over a period of time, I'd like to show you some slides that show our progress. This is a slide that shows our CPI, which is a performance index. The target for the state is 75. If you take a look at our CPI, we have exceeded the target many times, although we have missed it at other times. I'd just like to point out that in 2008, you'll see that we had a CPI of 72 for English language arts, which did not meet the target. In 2012, we're at an 89. You'll see steady progress along the way with English language arts. Again, we're exceeding the target for our low-income population. The same with math. You'll see that in 2008, we had a CPI of 60, and in 2012, I apologize, that's hard to see there, we are at a 78. Excuse me, we're an 85. So we again exceed that target, and you'll see by the visual on the graph that we do have a steady increase of progress. So not only are we meeting the target for our low-income population, you see the steady increase over 4 years. When looking at students with disabilities, we also see the same type of progress. The orange line represents the Glover School and steady progress that we see. Again, the CPI target is 75. In 2012, the Glover School English Language Arts CPI for students with disability is at an 81. And again, exceeding in math. You'll see that we did have a dip at one point in math, and then again, we have been making progress. So there is a steady incline, and it shows consistent meeting of the target and also exceeding.
Just another way to sort of look at achievement gap data and to look at how we're doing in our specific subgroup in terms of low income. This is just another chart. The tan up top is our English language arts data. If you can, again, this is CPI data, and we're just looking at the bottom, the difference between our, when we compare our low-income students with our general population of students, we're going from 26.5 in 2009 and all the way to 2012, we now have a difference of 6 points. So we are definitely narrowing the achievement gap when it comes to our low-income population. In math, fairly similar. I wish I could get that. Can you? Thank you. That's perfect. You can see those numbers decreasing 29.2 points in 2009, going down to 20 to 13, down to 8.9 is the difference from last year's data. So again, we're seeing that, that decrease over time, which is what we're hoping for. Okay. Yeah, just click on it. The next chart is similar, but now we're looking with our students with disabilities. And again, in general, we're seeing a similar trend where if we're looking at the data starting in 2009, moving through 2012, we are seeing a steady decrease in terms of that difference. In ELA, in 2009, 22.7 point difference, and this year, 13.1 point difference. And we do see that similar trend as well in math. If you look at the science, there isn't as much of a consistency in terms of that steady decrease, so that is an area that we will absolutely need to focus on.
So I'm happy to say that we have strengths at Glover School, as you've seen so far. We are doing exceptional at multiple choice questions and also in the style and language category as far as English language arts is concerned. Understanding a text, vocabulary, and concept development are also strengths. In math, again, the multiple choice questions are something that we achieve very well on, and geometry, including transformation and symmetry, and properties of shape. We do have some areas of improvement that we have highlighted with our staff and our students and are working on. In English language arts, we're focusing on nonfiction, poetry, and answering open response questions thoroughly. Math, we're also working on open response questions and understanding what is being asked of us. In measurement, we're working on choosing correct techniques and tools and systems, and also working with data.
One of the things that we've noticed in general in terms of looking at the types of questions our students struggle with are the questions that are more higher level thinking, things that, you know, a poetry question where it might be abstract and they need to you know, determine sort of the comprehension of text that's more challenging. So these are the kinds of questions that our students are struggling with, which make us really want to focus in on ensuring that the level of rigor within our activities and assignments and daily experiences are challenging our students. We put this slide in because if we had to do our improvement plan with just one slide, with a few words, it really would be this. Our focus at Glover Elementary School is really data-driven instruction, engaging all students, and really empowering students. And that is sort of the heart of what we're trying to do at Glover. And you know, ultimately, we want to make sure, we know that what really impacts student achievement is the instruction that takes place from 8:50 in the morning until 3:14 at the end of the day. And that is what we focus on, is what it looks like in those classrooms and the kind of environment that our teachers are creating for our students. And this sort of showcases it. When you are creating data-driven instruction and you're being really thoughtful about what kids need and you understand what kids need through data, your instruction is targeted and it's thoughtful and it's meaningful. And so that's the kind of work that we're really focusing on at Glover in terms of our improvement plan. So first, just to talk about some initiatives around data. One big piece that we worked on this year specifically was really zeroing in on our students and their reading K through 2. And so our reading specialist really worked this year to really fine-tune the kinds of assessments we were using for our first and second graders so that we could identify quickly and effectively what areas students needed to improve their reading and make progress. So we have a series of assessments that we do periodically throughout the school year. Even thinking about how we implement them, we've utilized some of our instructional aides, trained them to do the assessment so that we can do them quickly. Our reading specialist has worked with the teachers, meets with them as soon as the assessments are completed to do a full analysis and develop action steps in terms of the kinds of interventions that might be needed to support our kids. This year, when I returned in January, one of the first grade teachers and the reading specialist shared with me a great news story. They had implemented these assessments and they had a group of students, there were about 9 students that had been targeted for intervention. And so they did that early in the year, September. They were now doing their January set of assessments. 4 of the 9 had reached benchmark and no longer needed the intervention. That's exactly what we're looking for. So it was a really great news story to say that what we had implemented was working. Again, targeted instruction to support what kids need.
So Stephanie just talked about the importance of the targeted instruction, and a big part of that for on the teacher side of it this year has been focusing, is this not working? Focusing our professional development around analyzing and reflecting upon how we teach. specifically how in each lesson we're doing, how we're engaging learners, how we're focusing on making the lessons more student-centered, how we're incorporating writing into every lesson we do, and just reflecting in general on the level of that rigor that we're asking the kids to partake in. For example, one professional development we did this year, we were asked to collect all of the work we did in our classes for a week, worksheets, homework, classwork, whatever it was, and bring it to this professional development, not knowing exactly why we were bringing it. And it was at that professional development where we sat in grade level groups and we analyzed the work we were putting in front of kids, making, you know, being very reflective about how effective it was, what was our purpose for giving them this work, and did it achieve the goal we intended it to achieve, and could we have done something different? And that was done in grade level teams, and it really, from the teaching perspective, has had teachers take a step back and really look at what we're doing to make sure that we're maximizing the efficiency of our instruction. And that has been what the professional development has been centered on this entire year. And you can see it when you walk into the classrooms, the difference that it has made.
One thing I just want to share, a lot of the work around the cognitive rigor happened early in the school year. And when I rejoined Glover in January, I did an activity with staff so that they could reflect on what they had learned through the professional development. And one of the pieces that was so nice to read through in the teacher's reflections is the importance of student-centered learning, and to think about how you can shift your role as a teacher so that instead of sharing knowledge and telling students the elements of persuasive writing, thinking about how you can create an environment where the kids discover it themselves. So they look at model text and they come through and they analyze the text and they decide what those qualities are. And what their aha moment was when you do that, when you have the kids discover instead of presenting and telling, that one is so much more powerful, that the kids are more likely to remember it, and two, that the engagement is at such a different level for kids. So really great to see those reflections in the staff's writing, and that's the kind of work that we're hoping to achieve on a daily basis.
Things we are constantly striving for at the Glover School is to ensure that we're meeting the needs of a continuum of learners. And as you can see by the data that we presented, we are really working hard to close the achievement gaps, and we are seeing progress as a result of all of our hard work. We have enrichment. We offer enrichment classes. We do support before and after school, specifically in the area of math. We have targeted math support before and after school for third graders. We offer math as a slam dunk as a district-wide for fourth and fifth graders. We have a series of enrichment classes from everything ranging from article writing to science, exploration. So we really work hard to expose our students to a variety of support and enrichment outside of the typical school day. In addition to that, we continue to increase the inclusion of our special education services. So more and more you'll see our special ed staff going into classrooms as opposed to pulling out. This is not only ensuring that our kids with special needs are getting the support they need, but it's also benefiting the larger class as a whole in terms of differentiation of instruction and adult support for everybody. We're also increasing this year, we've increased the access to technology for our students. We've opened our Glover Computer Lab before school so that kids who maybe don't have computers at home have an opportunity to come in early before the school day starts and use Study Island on the computer, play math games, things like that, so that we are exposing all of our students to technology, which is sometimes hard to do in the context of the school day. So we've made it a point to open up the labs before school and staff them so that they have access to that as well.
If you don't mind, I'd just like to take this time to acknowledge some of the people in the room who are Glover parents, because I do credit the Glover PTO for the exceptional amount of technology that has been increased within the building. It stands out among the elementary schools. Every classroom has a smart board that far exceeds the district plan because of fundraising done by parents, and we very much appreciate that. I also want to acknowledge the hard work the teachers have put in grant writing through the MFE and Donors Choose, and through both of those programs, we've received many iPads for individual classrooms. We've also had parent donations of iPads that have made an exceptional difference in the classroom with student engagement. We've also received at least 2 sets of clickers from the Milton Foundation for Education. We have received Chromebooks through Donors Choose projects, funded again by random people and companies, but also with the great help of the Glover PTO. We continue to use Study Island, and we've increased our communication considerably using things such as Google Docs for communicating, and it has made a difference not only in day-to-day communication, but instruction and planning, and most importantly, learning.
So we acknowledge that some of this technology is relatively new, Chromebooks, clickers, things like that. So what we decided to do today was, with the help of 4 amazing 5th graders from the Glover School, to give you an idea of what some of this technology is. In front of every single one of you, you have a clicker. So these clickers were actually purchased through a grant through the Milton Foundation for Education. They're in the 5th grade co-taught at the Glover School. We use them on a daily basis. What we're going to do is we're going to show, instead of telling you how they work, we're going to show you how they work, and we understand that you may not have ever seen these before, so we're going to ask our amazing 5th graders to help you out. And oh, absolutely. Are they going to be able? So we are our 5th graders who are with us today. We have Ronnie Exantis, we have Sam Phelan, we have Zach Danner and Michelle Govin, and they're here to help us out. They're actually going to share with you some other things a little bit later in the presentation. Right now, they're going to start by showing you how to turn them on.
I have no idea how to do it. This one?
Lower right.
More help over here.
Yeah, right.
I've never touched one of these.
All right, so
It's that corner button right there.
this one's a turn on, yeah. That
So what we thought would be helpful is for you to give us some feedback to improve our presentation. Would like to ask you a question. Which type of technology would you like to know more about? You have 4 choices, and we'd like you to give your feedback on your clicker so we can get some instant data.
So I want to mention, if you notice, there's nothing on your screens right now except the home screen. That's what makes these clickers so amazing, is that the teachers are in full control. So until I activate your clicker, there's nothing exciting you can do with it. There's nothing that's going to distract you from my instruction. So I'm going to set it up now. So it's a multiple choice question. You can choose either A, B, C, or D. Which one
Just
would you
one?
like
Should
to
we
know
choose
more
just
about?
one?
Choose just one.
So which ones do you want? Smartboards or iPads? Select, and you press select. These are the areas.
Oh, so I don't hit D?
No, you pick whatever one you want.
Okay,
So
D?
if you, and then it shows
So
on the
results
screen.
are coming in. We can see with the
Okay.
highlighted numbers.
And then what do you want to pick?
Each one of your clicker represents a number. So for teachers, they would be able to know which number was which student. So they would also know if you didn't answer.
I hit D, that was
They'd be able to walk over and do a nice friendly reminder to make sure you put your answer in.
interesting.
So what we're going to do is I'm going to show you what happens once everybody has answered. I'm assuming everybody has answered. So instantly the data gets graphed onto the smartboard in the classroom. And I'll show you a couple different ways you can show this. This incorporates math into any lesson that we do. So before we even talk about whatever it is you'd like to talk about, we're going to say, what do you notice about the data? And we're looking for 5th graders or any grade level to tell us, the majority of the students chose D, things like that. That's a horizontal bar graph is not the only way that we can show the data. We can do it as a pie chart. And this comes up instantly with every question that the kids answer. You can choose to focus on it or not. It also gives the teachers an idea of who answered what. So although the clickers are numbered, we know whose clicker belongs to whom. And so we can tell who's getting the answers right, who's continuing to struggle.
So we might not actually show the data to children. We might ask them to answer a question or two. We might go to our desk and kind of look at the data and say, okay, 67% of the kids got number 1 wrong. We need to reteach. So the kids don't need to know that. We just now know that, and we can instantly change how we do business for the rest of the class.
In addition, this particular graph shows how long it took you to answer the question, which is also helpful in terms of getting kids to fluently master concepts.
It
with
would have taken a
automaticity.
lot longer if we didn't have the tutors.
They're the experts, these guys. So the majority, Mrs. Concanon, of people chose D. They'd like to learn more about the Chromebooks.
And we actually did predict that would happen. We've been speaking about smart boards for a few years now. I'm sure many of you are very familiar with the iPads, and you've just had experience with clickers. So Chromebooks are one of the most exciting purchases that we're making right now and receiving donations of. Chromebooks run anywhere from $200 to $250, and they are cloud-based notebooks. The beauty of these is that they're actually turning our classrooms into computer labs, and I do predict that in a few years' times we will have room in our computer labs for other things because the technology will be within the classroom. The most recent scene I've seen at the Glover School with Chromebooks was during a math games activity where parents come in and help. And typically this has looked like math games that include using paper money or coins, maybe some math-based board games. But on Friday, it looked much different. There was a group with a parent on a smart board doing a math game. There was a group on an iPad doing a math game, and then there were 6 students using Chromebooks to access an activity that the teacher had assigned through Study Island. This would not have been possible if we weren't using a wireless network, which we have recently received. So now, because we are wireless, the very inexpensive Chromebooks at $200 each is changing the look of education within a classroom because kids are connected with the device. One of the positive things about a Chromebook is that you can take any one. It doesn't matter if you choose Chromebook number 7 or Chromebook number 13. When you log in, all your information is there because it travels within a cloud, which is very different than an iPad. So we're finding that inexpensively we can change the experience kids are having as young as kindergarten. And it is my hope within the next few years that we see first and second graders learning how to type effectively using Chromebooks within the classroom for 10 minutes at a time. It is a goal of mine to see that type of learning take place at a much younger age in the schools, and the Chromebooks can help us do that.
Just as I know that Holly mentioned that much of the technology that we've received in the last couple of years has been from parent donations through PTO fundraisers, MFE, and also mentioned Donors Choose. I just want to share quickly one story about Chromebooks. We did have a teacher. Our goal is to really be able to have technology centers in each classroom. One of our teachers was motivated to do that, and he wrote a grant on Donors Choose. Within 24 hours, he received the funds to purchase 3 Chromebooks. And so it is amazing, the motivation of the teachers and utilizing things like Donors Choose to ensure that they get these kinds of materials to support instruction.
Sure. The teacher who was a first-time Donors Choose grant writer, I always suggest that you write a project for maybe $400 or less. It gets funded. It's a successful number. Well, his was over $1,000, and I thought it was a little ambitious and a little nervy, to be honest with you. But he proved me wrong, and the Glover parents helped him do that. With the match codes that are available this year, and they continue to be live now, you can match your donation. So many parents donated $100, which turned into $200. I actually had a parent call me disappointed because she couldn't give to his project. It was already done. That parent then continued to give the money that she won from a raffle to the music department, which paid for audio equipment, so it's all good. But I just want to say that through Donors Choose and the match code, we're getting a lot of things done. There are currently several Glover projects up and running now.
I will say this was one of our last staff meetings, and I enjoy this picture because it looks like everyone is on their, cell phone doing what they shouldn't be doing, but they're actually very much engaged in our faculty meeting.
I think that the teachers who hadn't used the clickers had wished that these fifth graders were there helping them.
So earlier in the presentation, we talked about empowering kids, and we do that through our instruction and thinking about how to make sure that we have student-centered activities. But we also just hope that it is present within our school. I had evidence of that on Monday. I was doing dismissal, and a student came to me and said, "Miss Nephew, what is it that you do all day as a principal?" And as I was trying to come up with my thoughts to answer the question, he said, "Actually, forget it. Do you think we could get together sometime so I could ask you some questions about it? I want to write an article." And I said, the writing teacher in me thought, well, this is fabulous. Of course we can meet. And so I said, if you write that article, I would be happy to publish it in our newsletter. And he thought for a minute and said, well, actually, I was thinking of creating my own newspaper. So that is the kind of empowerment that we really want to foster at Glover. And here's a group of kids that have really impressed me. In second grade, they approached me and said that they wanted to start an anti-bullying club. That they had ideas for creating members, and that they would be the spokespeople for ensuring that we did not have bullying in our school. Of course, I immediately said, absolutely, this is good. So this group, now Mr. Powers, our adjustment counselor, is the head of this group, leading them and pretty much just allowing them to have time in his office so they can meet. They have written multiple newsletter articles about the importance of their club, what they do, and how to join. I will often find sign-up sheets at the water fountain that they've posted on their own. And this year they created a presentation to go to every third grade class to present on the importance of the No Bullying Club. And what the teachers said was so impressive is that after their presentation, they could hear the mumbling of the kids in the class saying, I want to join, this is cool. So it's amazing what students can do when they're given the power to do it. The students felt that it was important to have T-shirts so people could recognize who they were. So one of the parents donated T-shirts. Just so happened the day that I wanted to talk to them about possibly being able to present their stuff at school committee, they happened to be in their T-shirts. So it was a perfect photo op.
We would be remiss to not talk about the Diversity Committee at Glover School, and the Diversity Committee works very closely with the School Site Council. Every year, the Diversity Committee has several projects, two of which are continue to be ongoing. They were such big events the first time we did them that we decided to repeat them every year. One is the Glover Goes Global, which if you walk into the Glover School, you'll see a giant mural map of the world, and every year we collect data on student heritage, and we post that data on the mural map. Another thing we do every year is the One Book, One School initiative. This year we wrote a grant for the book Everybody Cooks Rice, which is written by a local author, Nora Dooley. After the entire school read the book, Nora Dooley actually came and spoke to our children about the importance of community in addition to the writing process. From there, she came back at night for a nighttime activity where she again talked about how she came up with this book and the importance of community, which we thought was it was something we take pride in at Glover School, is the community that we establish. In addition to that, she did some really cool stuff with writing, to the point where the kids were like, "Did you guys pay her to come here?" Like, she was reinforcing everything we teach every day, which is a good thing. But we've already written our grant for next year's book, which is going to be the Name Jar, which we hope to continue. But the Diversity Committee is a big part of the Glover School community and works very closely with our school site council. So we've talked quite a bit about the teacher involvement at the Glover School. We have teachers on the site council. We have teachers on the diversity committee. In addition to that, we have this year we decided to create a group specifically focused around our special education students. And at the start of the school year, we started meeting as a co-taught cohort. So the Glover School has a co-taught at every grade level except for second this year. And so every week we would get together as the co-taught teachers and we would talk about what was happening in our classrooms. We'd brainstorm ideas for different situations, including differentiation of instruction, how we can incorporate technology into the classroom. And it was a really effective forum for us to bounce ideas off of each other and really did help in informing and improving our instruction. In addition to that, the Glover School has a shared folder where teachers who create unit centers or any activities can post to this shared folder so that everybody has access to it. I don't know if you want to speak more about the shared folder.
I think, again, it just speaks to the communication. We talked a little bit about that using technology, but the shared folder, which now actually seems almost old compared to what we're doing now, is just a vehicle for teachers to communicate while in the Glover School and to share lesson plans. And that has actually gone district-wide as well.
That's right.
So in continuing talking about the collaborative relationships we have and the communication that works so well at Glover, I think it's imperative that we speak about the parent and guardian involvement. Again, I've mentioned the PTO a few times tonight, and they represent a very devoted population in Milton. We've had many night events this year that have exceeded 200 people, including a family literacy night, a family math night. We have Meet the Artist sessions that are parent-run throughout the day. We have great involvement in PTO surveys, which give us information to help us make decisions that are good for Glover. We publish newsletters on a regular basis, and we have an upcoming Junior Achievement Day at Glover where grades 2 through 5 will participate with the help of parent volunteers and Junior Achievement staff to talk about careers for the future.
All right.
Okay, I'm going to ask our 5th grade students to come up.
Get this up.
Why don't you first introduce yourself? I know we shared, but I don't think you were in front of the camera then.
Sam Fallon. Michelle Gavin. Zachary Danner. Ronnie Exantis.
So we had asked our 5th graders, again, we need to empower our children. One of the things that we do at the Glover each year is a 5th grade community service project. And the project is totally run by children. And so we had asked, we thought it only made sense that we asked the children to come describe what the project looks like, because it's something that has become a big deal at Glover. So I'm going to ask the students to share a little bit about the 5th grade community service project.
The Glover 5th graders are working on a community service project. It is one of Glover's loved traditions. It is all a community effort, though. We all want to be good citizens. The organization we are working with is School on Wheels. Now I bet you're asking yourself, what is School on Wheels? So we're going to answer that question. School on Wheels is an organization that helps homeless kids get an education.
They provide tutors and school supplies to make sure kids get everything other kids have to be successful and feel equal. Cheryl Opper, the founder of Schools on Wheels, Massachusetts, came to our school to share a very sad and emotional video of the children and their parents talking about how the tutors helped them. A lot of kids were very touched by how much the kids in the video looked like us and were inspired by the cause, telling everyone and wanting to help.
We raise money by doing Study Island for a cause. Study Island is a website where kids answers questions in math, science, and reading for one week. 2nd through 5th grade Glover students get sponsors to pay them for money for answering questions. The more answers, the more money they raise.
Through all of this, every fifth grader has a job and everyone pitches in. Some of those jobs are backpack stuffers, money counters, and photographers. At random, fifth grade teachers pick a job for every kid. As a backpack kid, you put materials like pencils, folders, binders, markers, and crayons into the backpacks that will be donated. Kids at every grade level get what they need. The money counters count all the money coming from the kids in the school, and the photographers take pictures of kids doing their job and capturing the process of the journey. The fifth graders at Glover love doing community service for 3 reasons. Reason 1, we help other people. 2, we feel great about ourselves. And 3, we have fun doing it.
I don't know if you have any questions for them, but they're prepared to answer questions if you have them.
Just to share a little bit more, we have for the last couple of years done Study Island for a Cause, and we raise money for School on Wheels, as they shared. The first year we did this, the fifth grade students, the kids that were presenting, so they went to all the other classrooms and presented their cause and the fundraiser. They decided you need to have a goal. So they thought we really need to decide how many questions we want to answer as a school. So I said, well, that's a good idea. Goals are good. And so they said, we want to be able to answer 20,000 questions. And I thought, well, that's pretty ambitious. Okay. So they presented that to the second and third and fourth grade students. That's our goal. We're trying to answer 20,000 correct questions. We're raising money. They were very persuasive. I can track the amount of questions through the course. We do it over a week. So on day 4, and it became a pattern every morning, I had to go and check and see how many questions that were logged in. By day 4, we had reached the goal. Of course, I didn't share that with the children because we still had 3 days to go. They had answered 30,000 correct questions in 1 week's time. The next year, they exceeded that by answering close to 50,000 questions. They get so excited about the project, not because, I mean, it is a cool project, but they get excited because it's being presented by their peers, by the fifth grade students. And so it's incredibly powerful that the ownership. It's great to watch them create the posters, hang them around the schools. I love watching the money counters as they collect all the money and figure out how much they've raised. To watch them stuff the backpacks and be thoughtful about what kinds of things kids would want in their backpacks is also, it's just a really great project. So we thought it was important for our fifth grade students to share what they do. So if you do have questions, because they're eager to answer any question that you might have about the project, we'll maybe
Mrs.
allow
Nephew,
that.
we might start by telling them what we've come up with as a goal as a fifth grade for this year.
Oh yeah,
You guys
I'd like
want to do
hear
that?
it.
Michelle, how many questions are we going to answer this year?
100,000 questions.
We expect to raise $10,000.
100 backpacks.
That was it? All right, does anybody have any questions for these fifth graders?
I think I better send a message to my fourth grade daughter right now and tell her to get on it. Which grade do you think is going to answer the most questions?
That should be an easy answer.
I hope it's our grade, but any grade could do it. Every grade's ambitious and
Everybody's
can
in the game.
answer the
Everybody's in
math
the
questions
game.
and
Okay,
do
that's
it.
my question.
Go ahead, Lily.
How much money did you raise this year?
We haven't done it yet because the kids have not answered any Study Island or, any Study Island questions yet.
You could.
Oh. And
Go ahead.
and who sponsors you? Parents or neighbors or?
Parents.
Parents.
Well, for Study Island for a Cause, we just get anybody, like a neighbor, an uncle, an aunt, a grandpa, to, you ask, like, let's say $1 for each question you answer. So if you answer like 100 questions, you expect your somebody to give you $100. Yeah, so you just ask anybody that's willing to donate money, a certain amount of money, a reasonable amount for each question that you answer. Yeah. Yeah. So.
One of the things that I will also mention is I will say strategically, we do this service project prior to our math MCAS, and partly we do this because it allows students to get some nice practice in, and what ends up happening is when I talk to the students about the test, more so to make sure that they're not anxious and they're not stressed out and that it's simply another test to show what they know. Many students have said to me, Miss Nephew, I just did like 200 practice questions. I am ready. There's a confidence that they go into the test with, and that's partly because of this activity. And they don't feel like it's work, for sure. They're doing it because it's a bigger cause.
So just to clarify, they have answered and have been using Study Island all year. This contest will begin this Friday and go for the following week. So we expect great things from Glover students.
I just want to acknowledge, oh, you have another question.
How are decisions made? So you talked about your goal of answering 100,000 questions, or?
Yeah.
How was that decided?
We looked at the previous year's goals and how much we raised each year, and we tried to raise them a little bit more than it was the previous years.
And then do you all vote on that? Like, do you suggest a certain number and then you say, okay, that's it,
Yeah.
and you all vote on it?
We
or
basically agree.
You just,
Yeah.
consensus then, you would say?
There we go.
I would just like to say that these four had great practice today because they presented the project to all second, third, and fourth grade students at Glover. So they had a huge amount of people in front of them this morning, and they did this presentation with excellence. I dismissed the second and third grade students, and I left the fourth graders there and gave them an opportunity to pepper these students with any question they had. And much like tonight, they answered every single question with grace, with confidence, and with unbelievable answers. But they were asked this question today, and we have had nothing to do with their goal setting. So it's ambitious, but I don't doubt their efforts.
I'd like to also acknowledge that these four sacrificed lunch and not lunch, but sacrificed recess and their lunch with their friends for the last 2 days to write this script and to get these goals so that they could come and present them to you guys today. So they did a really nice job.
Well done.
Mr. Walker.
Wait, to each of the fifth graders, very nice job. I'm sure you could probably convince me to do whatever you wanted me to do. And to the leadership team, I would say this is the best advertisement for the work you're doing. What incredibly poised fifth graders.
Yes,
nice job.
I agree.
Well done.
So that concludes our school improvement presentation. Do we have? We have one last slide, which is more just to recognize that today is Administrative Assistant Day. And I think one of the things that we hope comes out in our improvement plan is that we have a strong community at Glover. And everyone plays a strong part. And the teachers are so collaborative, and I think that's such a strong piece of what makes Glover successful. And we would not be able to survive without Susan Doyle, who is our administrative assistant. And we take great pride as an entire Glover school to make sure that she feels special on Susan Doyle Day. And so I will say in the picture on the left was last year. Every student wrote a sticky note to remind us why she's so important. So she had 500 stick-it notes in her office. Today she was the queen bee. Apparently she does like a costume to go along with her recognition. So I did want to recognize her because she's an important part of our school, but I think it also showcases we do very hard work, but we also like to have fun, which is really important.
So one thing we wanted to show you while we were doing this, we're going to pose a question to you, but these clickers don't just allow students to answer multiple choice questions. We're going to pose a short answer question to you right now that you're going to be able to type like a text message into your clicker.
So this is one of the great things about the clickers is the ability to answer many different types of questions, so it doesn't have to be multiple choice. One of the challenges we have with Administrative Assistant Day is that we have to come up with a new idea each year, which is very challenging. Superhero one year, Queen Bee the next. So we're asking for your ideas for the next year. And this is a great tool for our students if we're looking for a brainstorm and we want kids to participate. So it is a way that we can create a different type of question. Again, this looks a lot harder to answer. I can see it on your faces.
Can we start typing?
Now you can start typing.
It's basically like texting. Just find the letters and type a costume available.
What do I do? And then do I hit it in?
I could say rocks.
Wait, so what is this about?
I'm going to say.
The students should feel free to offer their suggestions.
Give me good suggestions.
Do I hit this?
Ronnie.
Kim Kardashian.
Obviously, typically, we would wait for a nice, an appropriate period of wait time, but because we don't want to take up too much of your time, we'll probably just show the current results.
And hopefully Mrs. Doyle is watching.
You're not finished. I'm going to
Cut you off.
I gotta set mine.
Oh.
I like the mother duckling. Wonder Woman. A lot of people. Battling.
Mother duckling, that's a good one.
Oh my God, who did Battling? Mrs. Doyle, get ready to be a rock star.
Oh, Mother Duckling is very appropriate. For the
That's
Glover.
a really good one.
If I might, when we had our student athletes and our coaches, and we say everyone, every student, every teacher, every administrator is our favorite, also you can tell about climate. And so when you go in the front door of a school, or you go into a classroom, you can tell about climate. And Miss Nephew and Miss Concanon, Miss Pallett eloquently spoke about empowering students and engaging students in student achievement. And you evidenced tonight the climate that exists at the Glover School. And on behalf of the Milton Public Schools, I want to thank you. And we never have had students in a site council presentation, have we ever had students? And we've had students come, but such outstanding students. I don't think that these would have worked without all of you here. And I want to compliment you, and you are future school administrators, teachers, and school committee members. Congratulations.
Mr. Walker, you have...
clickers?
I did. Just first, congratulations on all the progress and on a very interactive presentation. Going back to the data, there's a pretty significant drop between 2011 and 2012 for students with disabilities in math and in science. Can you talk about that a little bit and about what the strategy is for going at that?
I think that maybe we'll wait and just look at the slide. The thing that that is difficult that I find when looking at the data, specifically looking at a grade 4 or grade 5, is we look at the data and it's numbers, but when we also look at the data, it's students. And we have very different populations of students come from year to year. And so I can look at the data and sort of understand the students that we were servicing from year to year and how that impacts the data sometimes. And the same is true in terms of how we address any sort of dip. we need to look at specifically what it is and why. And so in terms of looking at those results, going from specifically in math, we went from a difference of 10 points and then moved up to a difference of 15 points. It's hard. I don't know if that is significant in terms of making a drastic change, but the way that we address it is looking at each individual student that is identified within that group, identify specifically within those math assessments where their areas of strength is, where their areas of weakness is, and then target it so that we can address those needs. We haven't made a drastic change in terms of how we do business because of that dip.
And on science, talk about that a little bit as well, please.
Yes, and I do again want to point out that the CPI target is at a 75, so we have exceeded that in both math and English for this group. When you see the dip in the gap from 11 and 7/10 to 22 and 1/10 in the science population specifically, I just want to point out that that's a population that started with 21 students only and then went to 15. So it's a very small amount of students to deal with, so their percentages are worth a great deal when looking at data. So I do want to point out that it is only 15 students, and considering the low number, how great each one of those students' data is factored in. I do think that we have work to do. Again, our population changes. They are all students with disabilities, but the students are very different students, and we look at them very individually. This again highlights that we are doing good work, but there's always room to improve. This is our chance to reflect on not only exactly who those students were, but the type of learning that went on and the way information was delivered. And we definitely have work to do, specifically in science. And we also have work to do with children approaching difficult questions and understanding what is being asked and how to answer them.
Some of the work around science, I think where we are in terms of improvement is really tightening up the curriculum, ensuring we have a clear understanding of the types of experiences students should have at each grade level, and then what they should be able to understand and be able to do at each grade level. And so with that comes along some assessments to be able to then be able to see how they're doing. And so that's some of the work that we need to do in the science, as well as look at the types of experiences we have in science, making sure that they're inquiry-based, hands-on experiences, and also that they're writing in science, so they're able to be express what they understand and know through writing. So those are some of the things that we're sort of working on and working towards in the science curriculum. And I think that those types of things will absolutely, we'll see it in our data.
Thanks.
Mr. Fallon.
I'd just like to add, if the school committee and the public have noticed, this type of data has been the framework by which every school has presented data this year, which is asking itself, how did everybody do for a period of time, and what does that trend look like? And we've seen in each case, in each school, that the trend has been for all students to go at a higher level of success. And then what subgroups does this school have, and how did those folks do, and see what that trending looks like. And we see that each of our subgroups is progressing. But then to ask the harder question, which is, while that subgroup is making progress, are they making progress with a parallel trend, or are they actually attacking that gap in making gains towards not just doing well as a group, but making gains next to the people next to them that may not be in their group? For some of our schools, that could be our African American population. For some of our schools, it's our students with disabilities or our low-income students, all of whom are groups of folks that we want to pay special attention to ensure that we're shrinking that gap of achievement over time. This is the model, the framework that actually Dr. Karen Spalding brought to us in our first site council meeting that we will be using with our Proficiency Gap Task Force to measure just that. It's always nice to talk about how everybody does well, and that was good for a while. And then it was really important to talk about, well, how are subgroups of folks doing, and are they doing well? And that was a really nice conversation, because they were doing well relative to their own success and relative to the folks statewide who they are paired with. But the real question that we addressed this year, and I applaud the Glover and I applaud all the schools for utilizing this framework, is are they doing well, and are they making gains and carving into that achievement gap? And the answer to that question is yes. So I have to say out loud that I think it was the 2011 math scores that the grade 5 co-taught class in the Glover School was the highest achieving for our in-district assessments in the 5th grade across this community. So our programming is in good shape. Our students are working very, very hard, and our teachers are using really innovative ways to engage all students to make gains. And I think it's a very noteworthy comment to make sure that we, as a community, value not only how everybody's doing, but how our subgroups are doing, and are we really making progress towards reducing achievement gaps for all different types of groups of students. So I want to thank the Glover for the 2 groups that they have substantial populations in, which are our students on IEPs and our low-income students. So I think it's important to point out this trending, and I look forward to, I think we have one more school that will come and provide that data in a similar fashion.
Mr. Derrick.
Well, I have a quick question. I just want to talk about something else, but for you outlined the areas for improvement, and one of the things that I thought was interesting when looking at my children's MCAS scores is sometimes like one section under your measurement is one question. So how do you account? I mean, you have to work on it, but it's one question. Is that really a measurement that they're not answering questions of measurement?
And one of the things that we do as we look at the questions in a specific year is also look at the trends over multiple years. So, for example, poetry is typically 1 or 2 questions. It's usually one passage and then a handful of questions that go along with it. But historically, over multiple years, it has been an area that we've struggled with. And it is because it's more abstract. It's harder for kids to comprehend. So it is a relative weakness across the state. But I think that's what's also important is as we look at this, we can't look at it in isolation, this one test, because it could be just the way the question was worded. And so you don't want to change everything you do based on a question.
Yeah.
But you want to look at the questions over time and the categories over time. And that's why it's so important that we don't just use MCAS data, that we use our assessments throughout the year as well, because this is just one piece of information to help us understand how to improve student achievement. And so does it link with some of our common assessments that are happening through the year as well is really important to look at as we begin to decide how we're making changes and how we're making shifts to our curriculum and how we improve instruction.
Yeah, I think that's important because, I mean, you could think like nobody's doing well in measurement. It was one question, it might be skewed a little bit.
And it's interesting that you pull that out because I feel like, the same themes come up. And specifically with measurement, where there are so few questions, and they typically are perimeter and area, everybody, next week, perimeter and area. It is important to highlight that this test has a very limited amount of questions and a very limited amount of experiences for kids to show what they know about that concept. And that's one of the reasons why we have instilled things like common assessments that don't look exactly like the everyday math program that we use. That's one of the reasons why we use things like Study Island and IXL and Continental Math. We want to give kids many experiences to apply what they know in different situations. And the MCAS doesn't do that. You have a day to show off what you know, and hopefully it's a good day for you. So again, we take everything into consideration, but we do try to give kids as many different experiences with content as we can.
So there was just the other thing I wanted to talk about was I really was struck by what you had said about creating an environment where students discover for themselves, student-centered. And you knew this, but all the way through the rest of your presentation with the 5th graders coming to show us what they had decided to do for a project, but also the peer leaders, which I
as Mr. Walker definitely knows, I'm a big fan of. I mean, having those fifth grade peer leaders talk to the third graders about bullying will make a huge difference. I mean, there you look up to them, and that they're going to listen to them and repeat everything they know from that. And I just want to commend you on doing that, teaching, having part of the school be about kids teaching other kids and learning, finding out for themselves, and having the patience to allow your school to be part of that, teaching civics and how to be a good person, and having that throughout the school. It's something I've really noticed as being a parent at Glover, and you know, all schools have their great cultures and great environments, but that in particular really struck me, because it does make your school for kids more engaging and the kids more empowered. And so, you know, thank you for that. That was a really powerful part of your presentation.
Beverly Jones.
I just had a quick question. Thank you. This was a great presentation, and I loved having the kids here. That was very good, and I liked the little, what was the little thing?
Clickers.
Clickers. I really like that clicker, and I'd like one. But what you talked about a lot of money being donated by different parents and by the MFE. Do you have a lot of teachers that write grants for the MFE? So that's a big source. They write the grants, so the more you write, the more you get. And then the parents, it sounds like, give a fair amount of money as well. How does that?
We actually.
How does that work?
The teachers are very driven, and they're very motivated and resourceful, and they thrive off of each other. There's a very healthy sense of collaboration. Many of the grants may look like they're submitted by one person, but really there's a team behind it, and when they're funded, they share the resources. So even if it doesn't look as though everybody is represented, they are. We did spend one of our most recent staff meetings talking about different funding opportunities, including tips for writing successful MFE grants, as well as how to access Donors Choose. And one of the teachers shared his experience going through the process. So in a short time, 45 minutes, he was able to present ways to go about writing a project, and then we gave teachers time to actually submit projects. So right now, I think there may be 5 Glover projects up there, and that is actually quite a bit. And again, it may look like it's for one teacher, but there are several teachers behind it, and they share the resources. Kristen has written a grant for the clickers, and every 5th grader gets a chance to use them. So although they've been written for one class, the whole grade level accesses them.
I wanted to say that a big part of the teacher's motivation to do things like write the grants comes from these two, providing not only the time, but also the resources. I think grant writing can seem like an overwhelming task for teachers, but by giving teachers a place and a time and support to do it, we've had a ton of grants come out of Glover, and every classroom is reaping the benefits. But the leadership is a big part in giving teachers the support they need in order to make it happen.
You also asked about the parents, and a lot of funding does come from our PTO. We have a very active PTO that does a lot of fundraising, and some of the stuff that they do is for, you know, field trip buses and presentations that come to the school. We have a science presentation from the Museum of Science for every grade level, and all of that's funded through PTO efforts. But the PTO has raised enough money where each year, you know, working with us, say, what do we want to work on this year? What do we want to try to get into the schools? And so for the last 2 years, it has been partnering with the school to ensure that there's smart boards in every classroom. And so our PTO did fundraise to ensure that we did that. And so in 2 years' time, again, some of it purchased through the school system, but some of it purchased through the PTOs, we've been able to do that. So it's a number of different sources to make sure that we're getting what we need.
And I think it's important to make sure that we consider the music and the art teachers and the considerable work they've done through events at the school that have raised money to get them what they need as well. And again, it's the great work that is started by the teachers, but it's with the support of the families in the community that have helped them get more than what they need.
Thank you.
Sure.
Well, I also want to thank you for that thoughtful and reflective presentation. It was very impressive. But I think that we have a captive audience at home right now who has been really intrigued with the clickers and excited about the opportunities that they present to the children of your school. And I think that it would be really helpful if you could share exactly how people can log on to Donors Choose to make a contribution.
Okay, it seems like I'm the lady to do that. So if anybody was interested in donating through Donors Choose, it's very easy to do. You would go to donorschoose.org, and you'll see many celebrities' faces on the website right now. It is the way many people are donating. Many major businesses are donating only through Donors Choose. We've had projects funded from Crate and Barrel to a random parent in Milton to a grandparent in California to just somebody who liked the French language and wanted to pay for books. So the donors come from every part of the world. So when you log on to Donors Choose, you can search projects that you're interested in. If you're interested in supporting the arts, you would put in arts. If you're interested in supporting autism or any kind of special need, you can put that in. In Milton, in the search window, you can put in 02186, and all Milton projects will come up, and also some Mattapan projects as well. So you can, there are many ways that you can search. Hopefully you'll search through the zip code of Milton, 02186. And then when the projects come up, you can find a project that you're interested in, and then you very easily are able to support a project with a credit card. This year, what's special about Donors Choose and why so many projects are getting funded so quickly is because we have 2 opportunities to match donations. The first opportunity is an Inspire code for a project that is up for less than 7 days. You can type in Inspire as a match code, and if you put in $50, Donors Choose will also put in $50. If the project is older than 7 days, so 8 days or more, there's another code that you can use, and it is courtesy of the Horace Mann Insurance Company. And if you put in Horace Mann 12, they will also match your donation for a project that is 8 days old or more. So again, $10 goes a long way. We saw 3 Chromebooks get funded in less than 24 hours. So it's amazing what can happen. It's also a little bit addictive. It's one of, I've reined myself in, but it feels good to give. I was actually showing Mr. Desmond, the speech therapist, some of the speech projects on Donors Choose, and we actually found a project in Florida for a speech classroom who wanted a laptop computer, and all they needed was $10, and we were the lucky people who could give them $10, so it felt as though we bought them a computer, and it really felt like it was one of the best feelings that I've had, and it makes you want to do it again.
Can I also say one of the great things about donating to a project, as much or as little as you decide to donate, once the whatever you've donated enters the classroom, the people who have donated to the project will get thank yous and pictures and things like that from the classroom. So people actually get to not only give money, but then see and hear about how their donation has impacted in the classroom, which is
And
awesome.
will you tell the story about how you become a preferred customer?
Oh, well, so the way it works for teachers is it's similar to, if you're familiar, to an eBay type of thing. You have to prove yourself to be a good customer, and the way you do that is that you write a project, it gets funded, you post thank you notes, and you do everything according to rules. As a new customer, you're limited to what you can get, and you're limited to where you can shop. For instance, you can shop at Best Buy, Lakeshore Learning, a few other approved shops as a new customer. That's why I suggest to teachers do a project that's relatively small, get it funded, earn some points, become a good customer, and then ask for more. Once you prove yourself to be a good customer, you can ask for higher level things from more places. We have a teacher, I believe at Cunningham School, who has written so many projects at this point, and she's such a good customer, that she's at the point where she can ask for a field trip or a guest speaker. So you kind of, once you're a good customer, you can really get out of the box of buying things and planning events that could benefit the whole school or even the whole town.
Have you seen, again, I'm very proud that our teachers across the district are writing grants to the MFE, and they're doing the Donors Choose grants. So all through the year, when our budget dollars aren't there and they have a creative idea, they're taking the initiative, and it is unbelievable, the ownership. Do you see MFE grants that that might not be funded, that then become Donors Choose, or Donors Choose that become MFE?
Well, this cycle of MFE grants, because of the focus on technology, this cycle of mini grants, they weren't funding technology. So I could definitely see, as I was reviewing the MFE grants and then looking at the Donors Choose grants, the people that wanted the technology used Donors Choose, the people that wanted other things used MFE. So they were being strategic, yes.
And again, speaking to the collaboration of the town, we've had parents who are on the MFE fund Donors Choose projects. And we've had PTOs in every elementary school clean up projects at the end of the year. With any extra funds they've had, they have finished projects for teachers, which has been amazing. So I feel as though the grants really can work together, not necessarily, you know, a different thing to do. I really feel like there's room for both.
And we're seeing them replicated across the district. So the clickers started in one school in a second grade, and then across the district, a successful grant is then replicated either through MFE, school dollars, or Donors Choose.
And just one thing, we had our presentation today in the Glover School cafeteria, and I was able to show the School on Wheels video using an iPad, which required much less manpower in setting up. And the only reason that I could do that was because we had the wireless connectivity, which again we owe to our community and the MFE specifically. So these things that we're paying for and raising money for, I just want you to know that they are making a huge impact in the classroom, and not just in the day-to-day instruction of the classroom, but also in presentations and things like we did tonight. So.
Thank you very much.
Excellent, thank you. Next, I'd like to ask to join us at the table, Jerry Vitti, representing the Milton Public School PAC, Special Education PAC. Welcome, Jerry. Since Jerry wears many hats, one of which is a Glover parent, you are engaged in that presentation.
Absolutely. Glenn, in tribute to you, I'm going to say I'm Jerry Vitti, and I live at 15 Longwood Road in Milton. But thank you very much. I mean, there should be a rule about having to follow kids like that. I really feel disadvantaged. Paralyzed with guilt seeing the student athletes that I'm not getting to the gym and so forth. But anyway,
You enjoyed every part of it.
I'll try to go forward. That was a great presentation by Glover, and it was a great presentation. Great job by the Glover kids. I'm very proud of them. So every year the PAC is invited to come and talk a little bit about the PAC and do a mini state of the PAC, if you will, to the school committee. So we're very thankful to the administration and the school committee for having us here tonight, although I wish I wasn't following these guys. But and just as a reminder to our audience that PACs are mandated and regulated by the state law, that we're charged with advising the school committee on matters pertaining to special education and the safety of students with disabilities, and also meeting regularly with school officials to participate in planning and development and evaluation of special education programs. So we do wear an official hat. In terms of...
Would you also say what PAC stands for? Because
Oh,
people
sure,
might think
I'm
it's
sorry.
a political action
Yeah, no,
committee,
it's not
which
a
it's
political
not.
Enough people. The PAC is a Milton Parent Advisory Council, which is the special education advocacy group in the town of Milton. Thank you. That's a good point. So I feel that this past year, we have an advocacy agenda and an advisory agenda, and I think this year, in many ways, has been the best year for the PAC in terms of those two areas. In the CAP discussion, which you may or may not recall, We were a voice for kids with special needs. I think we cemented our place at the table with our advocacy efforts, and I think we were recognized and kind of built the brand, if you will, in the community at large. You know, I was proud of our members and the board for really standing up. I think we were very passionate, emphatic about the fact that there wasn't a French program, there wasn't an English program. There special education had to be in every sentence in every thought of, when it came to the CAP issue. In doing that, I think we adopted the word all. It wasn't French versus English. It was all. Let's focus on the rights of all kids. And I think we made sure that our voice was heard in terms of making the rights of kids with disabilities paramount to the discussion, and also injected some urgency in that. CAP, when folks who were not in favor of the CAP wanted to delay, we really came out strongly with the idea that we don't want anybody to have their rights delayed, and any special education child to have to wait kind of online while things got figured out. So very proud of that that agenda, and it's really filtered down, which is great, because I am receiving, and other PAC members are receiving, a lot of calls from individuals in the district who have questions about special ed, have issues, you know, with special ed that they want help on, and we're able to help more people on an individual basis as well as kind of on a broader scale. So that's been great. We continue to put forward our advocacy agenda. We're talking actively with the administration about summer services, how they're implemented. We have basically a new year and a new set of new program, and we're talking about the criteria and the data collection and the transparency and so on and so forth, because we have a lot of questions from parents, and that's ongoing. We met this past week, which is a terrific meeting, and we're going to meet next week. So we'll continue to engage on that level and other levels. The other piece of what the PAC is charged to do is to provide educational opportunities for our members to learn more. And we had a couple of programs this past year that were very robust. One was from the Federation with Children with Special Needs, and the program was called an IEP for My Child. We had a veteran person from the Federation come and talk about rights, best practices, gave practical advice, hands-on advice to people who were at the meeting, and around better ways to advocate for themselves and for the children. We also had a series of roundtable discussions where we got folks together to talk about their common issues. One of those was facilitated by a parent or special education consultant who came in and really did a wonderful job facilitating the issues and providing insight to parents who are just across the table talking parent to parent, and that was a very successful program. So one of the things that we got away from a little bit was we were doing previously had done more joint presentations with the administration, and I think we were remiss in letting those go. I think a preschool presentation, especially a COTOP presentation. I know the middle school presentations went well, where we get folks, teachers and counselors and principals and folks from the central office together, and have nights where folks can come and learn about the programs, physical therapists, occupational therapists, the whole gamut. Where folks can come, learn about the programs, and ask questions. So you could expect to see more of that next year. Okay, I'm finishing up here. Where we need, I think, improvement as a PAC, because we're always looking to improve, is really on board and membership engagement and involvement. We cover a lot of ground, I feel, but we have, kind of a shallow pool, and we need to build that pool. And that's one of the priorities that the PAC has to have in order to keep going at the level we've been going at. So that's something, and that's for the audience to recruit and to get folks fired up in terms of, here, this is what we're doing. We're making a difference. Come join us and come help. So we have PAC elections in June, and we hope that we can get some new blood as well as have some like old blood like me. And we'd like to do more, also do more kind of fun activities for parents. Sometimes it could be very isolating to be a parent to having a kid with special needs. You might not get out as much. You might not interact with parents of typically developing kids, and we want to provide forums where we can do that. And unfortunately, we haven't done that so well in the past, but would like to do that. So. So just a huge thank you to the community for being so supportive, Mary and John, the school committee, Glenn. I appreciate your leadership and your compassion and the intelligence you bring to the table, and all your hard work and your long hours. So much appreciated. So that's it for the PAC update. I do want to take a moment of time, and maybe I can do this as a private citizen and give my name and address again. But I want to say something about the Challenger League, the division of Little League that we're getting going. The Challenger League is actually part of the Little League in Milton, and it's for kids who can't access baseball, the great game of baseball, because they have special needs. And that's no longer the case, because we're starting on Sunday with our first game. It's going to be great. It's going to be great. We have our 16th parent called me tonight and said, "Can I sign my child up?" And we're going to take him throughout the season. The more the merrier. It's going to be great. So we'll have most of our games at the Guile Road at 1 o'clock on Sundays. We welcome folks to come down, volunteer, root us on, and just have a very fun, and I think it'll be a very moving and touching experience. And really, J.P. Plunkett is responsible for really being the engine that started this process. I know personally, my daughter Francesca has been carted to her brother Anthony's baseball games for years and years and years. And we went out and bought her a baseball glove. I'm hoping to get her a little pink batting hat and helmet. And we have uniforms for the kids, and she is so excited and so proud to have her own sporting event that everybody else is going to go to. So it's very empowering, and it's going to be a beautiful thing. And the town couldn't be more supportive. I haven't met a person yet who hasn't said, "Call me, I want to volunteer, anything you need," and so forth. So it's just going to be magnificent. So thank you. Thanks for the opportunity to talk about this.
Ms. Sheridan.
Yeah.
Thanks for that update,
Oh, sure.
Jerry. And just a couple of questions. One is, where did you say on Sunday and what time?
Guile Road on Sunday at 1.
So it's the lower field
Lower
down here?
field, yeah.
Sunday at 1?
No?
So the field is the field opposite the entrance of the Copeland Family Fieldhouse.
Right, okay.
So that's going to be the Challenges field. If anybody ever wants to use that field, they have to contact the Little League Challenges.
Right.
And Jerry Vitti and J.P. Plunkett, an individual who works with us, she's brought her son for years to Braintree to play in the Challenger. And to think that it's going to now begin and be here for Milton Public School students, we are so grateful, and congratulations to you and J.P. Plunkett.
Thank you. I couldn't help thinking about when the student athletes were up here. We now have our student athletes with special needs kids are our newest and are no less great student athletes. So it's wonderful.
Good stuff.
I just have one more
Ms.
question.
Bagley-Jones.
Jerry, it's good to see you back. You have to come
See you.
visit us more often. We saw you there for a while. I'm glad to hear about the game. That's great. And, you know, what always struck me, you know, as a parent, you don't know what color eyes your kids will be born with. You don't know what their learning style will be. You don't know what their physical abilities will be. And then there's the pack for parents who have kids who have some challenges. And I'm just so grateful that you guys exist in the work that you do. I mean, maybe not every parent needs you, but you're there if we do. And I think that that's just really amazing work that you do.
I appreciate that.
I know how exhausting it is to be a parent, and then to throw in any kind of learning differences on top of that, you know, pretty exhausting. How do you build the pool? I mean, is there a way that principals, not that principals don't already do enough, or the PTOs, because I look at you and I'm like, okay, well, who's going to be next? And we can't afford to let this great organization, you know, go away. And so how do we help you get more parents involved? I mean, I don't know.
Well, first of all, thank you for recognizing how exhausted I am, because I am. I think we, you know, it's similar to Challenger Division. I think the more people know about us, the better we're going to be off. We're going to be. So, perhaps it's a communication strategy with the department in order to recruit more folks. I mean, that would be helpful, because we don't have the resources to go out and put an ad in the Milton Times or do much of anything at all. A lot of our events or speakers are funded by someone on the board. And so it would be great to be able to engage on that level and try to recruit people who you know at your you know, the principal's individual school that are engaged parents and would be good fits and would be willing to devote some time. It doesn't take a lot of time, but it unless you're the chair, but it does take some time and commitment to be a board member.
Linda Lee.
I just had one more question, sorry. You also said that you have a June meeting. Is that your next meeting of the PAC?
We'll have a meeting in May.
So where do you meet and when do you meet? So if people are at home listening to this,
Generally,
they're
the third
interested.
Thursday, 7 to 9, at Pierce Library. So, and I think we've been doing a great job of trying to get folks out in terms of you know, the coordination on the notices and so forth. But we are struggling to get people to the meetings, regardless of how powerful the content is, and regardless of how dire the need is on the parents' part. It's just tough to get folks to come out, and you know, we need to find better ways to disseminate information as well too. But we're very challenged in terms of resources. So any resources we can borrow or steal, happy to do so.
Kelly.
So I also want to echo the thanks, because I know it's a huge amount of work, a huge amount of emotions that go into this. And I guess in terms of how do we connect and help to build sort of the group that you work with, I guess I would ask about other school districts and whether there are examples of really strong communities that support the PAC, and what is it that maybe they do that might be helpful in terms of how we connect. But we have over previous years talked about making sure that PAC meetings are on our Milton Public School calendar. And I'm not sure whether they still go out, but at the elementary level, when we had all the flyers go home, that was also, and I'm not sure to what level we still do that, but I think that would certainly be one way of trying to re-engage and trying to get people to help join.
If I might just answer that first. We do, they have the PAC has their own column in my email blast. We coordinate and send out the flyers, but we can find out what they do in other districts to increase enrollment. I think the testimony, not to interrupt you, Ms. Kelly, was that Jerry Vitti said he thought that this was the best year that he's been associated with the PAC. And my reaction was, when there was an issue, the PAC organized. And so we will look for ways so that we're servicing the parents of the students in our school.
So to that point, one thing that we often ask site councils when they came up, if there was one thing that you would have us do that would help improve in whatever area you think is appropriate, what would the PAC say to that?
Yeah, I think it's a resource issue. So we have a human resource issue in terms of getting folks to the table, and it's also an issue. We have issues with, keeping our website updated, keeping current content on our website, disseminating information, and so forth. If we had some help with that, and even if it was coordination with some students who knew how to run a website and could help with content and so forth, that'd be terrific. If we were able to engage volunteers, students who volunteered, who'd hit the pavement and spread the word, I think that would be very helpful. So I think there's a thought-provoking question, because I think there are a lot of resources within the system. I know, Mary and John have been ultra supportive of what we bring, but I think if we could get some human resources and the energy of the kids in this room, then it'd be all over.
Ms. Kelly, follow up.
Sorry, so, and I appreciate that. I think that's a great idea, and I think that goes to the organization of the PAC. I guess I was asking more around special education services at Milton Public School. If there's one opportunity that you think that we have that we can improve upon, what might that be? And you don't need to answer now. I guess I always look for that from the PAC when they come on a yearly basis. So give us, 3 top things that we need to your point, continue, or to everyone's point who's spoken tonight, to continue to improve, and what would those areas be? And I think that would be important feedback from the PAC. To get at some point, whether it's tonight or another night.
So I think one of the things is continued transparency around programming. I think that's important. Information around programming to get so parents understand what is available to them. I know we've struggled to try to maintain our. We did a wonderful special education guide. Things have changed in that. I really think that part of the administration's charge should be to support that, keeping that guide updated. We're certainly responsible for then helping folks to advocate when they don't feel their services are being up to what they believe they should be, or they're being denied, or they're so forth. So we help with those issues. But I think helping folks, the transparency, and then helping folks understand the programs and what's offered and their options is very would be very helpful. There's sometimes, you go to these IEP meetings, you sit on one side of the table, everybody else sits on the other side of the table, and it really should be a round table. And I think that's true of the perception of parents as well. It's not always, it doesn't need to be confrontational, but you really need to know your rights as well, because it doesn't always go the way you would like, and the parent is the best advocate, is sometimes the only advocate, and empowering folks who understand that you have a team chair, but I'm the chair of my daughter's team. No one else is I consider myself the chair of her team. And I think empowering parents in that way through information and helping them to advocate is really where it's at. Because, as I said, it's can be very isolating as a parent to have a kid with special needs, and you may not be talking to other parents about your rights and your way you can push back and so forth. So I just the more information and the more transparency, the better. And then I think the more folks know about their rights, the better off the whole system's going to be, not just the individual parent. But it's overwhelming. It's daunting for parents. So.
Ms. Bagley-Jones.
Really quickly, I heard you say a couple of things. Community service rings a bell around what you were looking for in terms of the web design or those other things. We certainly have students who need community service hours.
Yeah.
And I don't know if the administration could follow up with guidance, I think,
Yeah.
who would post that position. They might need a little description. The other thing is, who's the advisor? Do we know offhand for the Best Buddies program? I should know this.
It's a teacher at the high school, but
Should know this.
she's a newer teacher, I apologize.
Okay.
Miss Canty, Bridget Canty.
Okay, I don't know either, but
Okay.
it would be good
Yeah,
to
that'd be
have
great.
her invite the Best Buddies, the Best Buddies and their buddy. What am I trying to say?
Yeah,
Best buddy and
the
their buddy.
peers,
Their
correct,
peers
yeah.
Yeah, their
to
peers.
your softball games. I think that would be
Be
great
awesome.
to get the high school
Mhm.
kids
Be awesome.
involved in the Best Buddy groups of kids. They're a great group of kids, and they
And
care
there's
a
your,
lot.
and there's your social event, right?
Exactly,
You get everybody
and-
together, you have kids who support it, you
That's
get
right.
Jim,
That
or
is a
you get some
thriving
groups.
group at Milton High School.
Yes, it really is, and I know that they would love to come to the games. And then we didn't get the guide redone? We got it done, but it needs to be updated?
Guide,
is that-
yeah, the guide was done, but it really needs to be updated.
And so whose job is that to update it? Is that guidance?
No,
director.
special ed director.
Special ed
Karen
director,
Cosby.
okay, so those can go on our list,
Mhm.
okay. Thank you.
Thank you.
Anything else? Ms. Kelly?
Just one last question on the preschool program. Do we have a night that explains the preschool program? Or, you know, we have kindergarten night, we have first grade night. Is it time to do a pre-K? And granted, there are limited space availabilities, and maybe that's something. However, you know, how else do you sort of, to your point, let people know that we do have a program here that your child might be able to avail themselves of?
Do you mind if I answer, Jerry?
Brian.
The preschool enrollment starts at age 3, but it really starts at age 2 3/4 when families are interacting with agencies within the South Shore area who live in Milton and who are also working with their pediatricians. So our preschool folks are in very close contact with surrounding service providers of OT, PT, speech, et cetera. So with the connections to doctor's office, pediatrician's offices that families are attending to get services, it is very well publicized that public schools are responsible to provide these services at age 3. So the families are coming to us at about 2 years, 6 months to prepare and create relationships with folks at our preschool. So we don't necessarily have a preschool night as much as we have a network that we communicate with and queue up as many parents as we can, as early as we can, to talk to and prepare for their children as they come in. And children come in throughout the school year. They don't come in only in September. So if I turn 3 in December, I start in December. So that's an ongoing enrollment, and it's an ongoing effort of the school department, the public school department, to interact with the agencies of those students and families.
Ms. Kelly?
And so I totally appreciate that. I think we have, in previous years when we've discussed this, perhaps had additional opportunities in families of color to make sure that they know that we have a program. And I thought we had, in previous years, talked about some sort of outreach that would be able to communicate that a little bit better than we had in the past. But the other point that I wanted to make was just the co-taught peer group of that program, which, you know, back when my kids were in preschool, which was a long time ago, I didn't find out about. I mean, I grew up in Milton. I didn't find out about the program until my youngest was, you know, in his last year. I mean, he ended up going to the program, which was wonderful. He had a fabulous time, but we didn't know about it. So I'm not sure how we're communicating, and I'm sure communication has gotten better over the years, but I'm just thinking it may be an opportunity for us.
It's a huge issue that you've identified. First, Jerry Vitti, John, and I realized that preschool informational meeting was really valuable, hosted by the PAC. The audience was huge, and there were parents there whose children were younger than the entry age. And Ms. Kelly's talking about the role models. So for both the program at Milton High School that the school committee voted to put the funds that are going to be voted for us back to putting that program at Milton High, and our preschool program, I've urged them, they use my email, They use the time, the Milton Times, but I don't think that they can work hard enough with getting the word out to parents who don't have children, to Miss Kelly's point, who are in the public schools. So parents in the public school get my email blast. Everybody doesn't get the Times. So to Miss Kelly's point, I worked the other day with the high school teacher who runs that program and said, you know, I want to look, are you continuing to have only siblings? Are you expanding? Is the population diverse? Find out if those children live on streets in all 4 of our districts. Perhaps we have to do a better job. And that's mirrored at our preschool, housed at the Collycut. So that issue is primary for us, and we work. It's so competitive now at this preschool that they have to do a lottery. Who's going to go as a role model? But children with special needs. But we recognized with Jerry the other night that in doing it with the PAC, we got a really huge audience. And as Jerry and Mr. Phelan said, parents all through the elementary schools would go to the middle school special ed presentation just to get ready, so they're not making a decision in the middle of the 5th grade. They want to hear, they're anxious to hear what programming exists at the middle school.
Yeah.
But
And
those are huge issues.
We need to get that back to a balance. I mean, I think some of the PAC board members, and I agreed at the time, wanted to have more of an opportunity to sit as parent to parent and talk, and not have you know, a program necessarily. But I think we can do both. We can have a program and have a break off into a round table. You know, thank the teachers and the administration for coming, and then have a PAC meeting. So I don't think they're mutually exclusive, and I don't think I realized that at the time. So we'll get back to it. Can I ask, do you have data on just I know we talked on the different the summer program, and did we talk about just collecting some data and sharing that?
I don't have the data tonight. I met with...
I don't.
Yeah, no, I met with, I will talk a little bit about the summer program that we have for our end of year services, as well as summer enrichment, but I did meet with Karen Clasby, our special education director, this morning, in talking about the process by which students are given end of the year services. Those services are only provided if a student, and this is the legal determination of how do students get end-of-year services or extended year services, and it's usually by demonstrating that they need that service over the summer months, so there's not a substantial regression when they come back in September. We introduced that process to our team chairs and our parents and our teachers this year in terms of how we collect that data, how we communicate that to parents, and we're getting feedback from the parents that they want to know more about what that process looks like, what does that tool look like, and how is it impacting some of the numbers of students who are getting services and what that looks like. So Jerry very clearly gave us that feedback this week. I met with Karen Clasby today. We're getting ready to answer some of those questions and make sure that we're communicating what that means to parents and teachers, so they're very clear with how that process works. So this was the first year we did it with the new tool, and I think it's a learning process this year that we want to make sure that we move everybody through and make sure everybody feels confident if their child is or is not getting services, how come and what that means.
Yeah. And this has been you know, we've had a great dialogue about that, so I appreciate that.
Thank you, Jerry. I think, actually, as a future meeting, it might be nice to have the Challenger kids here as one of our guests one night, maybe towards the middle of June or something like that, after they've had a few games behind them.
All right, yeah. So they'll be veterans by then.
1 o'clock on Sunday.
Yeah, 1 o'clock on Sunday. Hope to see you there.
Thank you, Jerry.
All right, thanks so much.
Jerry.
Take care.
Thank you, Jerry.
Very briefly on happenings. First, I'd like to, we sent out to all Milton Public School parents and staff, announced the appointment of Dr. Elaine McNeil-Germay as the Tucker Elementary School principal. We had a search committee made up of Jonathan Redden, you were represented very ably by Becky Padera, school committee member, Marilyn Decker, teachers Elizabeth Spitz, Trish Leahy, parents Steve Paxia, Suzanne Cardi, and Kimberly Terry. We had 51 applications. The individuals decided, I think it's very important, in a lot of districts, the superintendent screens the applications and asks the committee to interview 10 people. In the Milton Public Schools, I should have Ms. Padera give this description. They screen every application. They decide who we're going to see. They brainstorm what they wanted in the Tucker principal. They come up with the questions to really reflect those characteristics and what they're looking for. We hold the interviews, and we decide who we're going to put forward to the next level. The charge is the individuals have to be qualified to be the principal of the Tucker Elementary School. We put forth finalists. Steve Praxia volunteered going down to New York City, one of the parents, to do a site visit on our top candidate. I did extensive reference calls to California and New York and the Boston area, and very, very exciting news. Dr. McNeil Germay agreed this week to accept the offer. Very briefly, she attended Boston College, majored in English and Black Studies. You should also know she's a graduate of Tucker, Pierce, and Milton High School. She earned her master's in elementary education from the University of Massachusetts. She then earned her doctorate at Loyola Marymount University in California, an outstanding institution. Elaine taught in California. She's taught in the Bronx. She was a dean of students, and most recently, she's been an assistant principal. Speaking with her principal, and from Steve Praxia's site visit, that was one of the best write-ups I've ever read from any educator or parent. He said after he walked 5 blocks in New York City and up 5 flights of stairs, he spent the day, he spoke with children, her supervisor, parents, and from the feedback that I received from the reference calls and in the interview, we have a strong instructional leader to take over the role of the Tucker principal. She is an advocate for children. She's been known to lead outstanding professional development. In our achievement initiative, we're talking about ANET as an assessment tool. She's used ANET. She's skilled and very, very talented. So I want to recognize, again, the contributions and the leadership of Tucker Principal Marcia Uretsky, and tell you that the parents and the teachers, the administrators on the committee are very, very excited. When Elaine is in Boston, she'll come in front of you, and I will guarantee you that the Milton School Committee and the town of Milton, the community, and most especially the Tucker School will be very, very happy with this next chapter that we're going to open and begin to read at the Tucker School. I will report to you that we have a Glover Search Committee.
Before you go on, I'd just like to offer my congratulations to the search committee and to the superintendent on this hire. I think it's a great hire, and superintendent didn't mention that in what is always a good sign when you're recruiting a candidate, they made a counteroffer, which she turned down, I'm pleased to say. So good work.
We're very, very happy. On the Glover Search Committee, again, you're ably represented by School Committee member Becky Padera, Janet Sheehan for the administration, Carolyn Brandy, Maureen McLean, and Holly Concanon representing teachers, Rachel Shuey, Adrian Sullivan, and Jerry Vitti, who is here with us tonight, representing the parents. We had our first initial meeting. We brainstormed what we're looking for, and I have to tell you, I wish that you all and the whole public could serve on these committees, because you hear from the parents and you hear from the teachers, and looking at it, cyclical, the needs and the wants of the populations change. And so sometimes I want to say we want everything in the outgoing principal, and we want all of this too. We want everything the outgoing principal brought to the table, and we want even more. So that we've screened, and now we're waiting for the application date to close, and the applications, John Phelan and Sean Walsh, should be complimented. They have streamlined this process and they all go online, and all of the work and the feedback's done on the selection process online. So we're in the midst of that process. On our administration, assistant superintendent for business search, we went through the first round, and I've reported that we've come up unsuccessful. And so I'm speaking with school committee members, and we will again go out and post for that position. I will tell you that in my experience as a principal, assistant superintendent, and superintendent, we've gone through that process, and we've gone out again, and some of the most successful individuals who have led in this school district have come up in second and third rounds. So we look optimistically, and again, I would say to the viewing public and the parents, we don't give any job away in the Milton Public Schools, and we will find the best and the brightest candidate to fill every single one of the positions that the taxpayers pay for, and the school committee and myself hire. Very briefly, Mr. Phelan's going to report about summer school. Two important notes. One that will make Mr. Walker very, very happy. Today, Dr. Karen Spalding left the office, and they have on the middle school track team 125 students. And so there are 3 meets that I will announce and put in the email blast when they're scheduled, but you could say that middle school sports at Pierce School, receiving from the children and the parents has been a huge success.
Fabulous.
So that was a huge, great news story for the Milton Public Schools today. I want to briefly ask all of you to circle on your calendars an event that happens every 2 or 3 years, the Milton Public School K-12 Art Fair. So circle on your calendars the night of May 1st. I believe it will be detailed later. You have an organizational meeting, but that is going to be, you will think that you're at the Milton Fine Arts Museum, and you will have the treat of your life. I don't know if you'll enjoy watching the children look at their artwork, the parents look at their children's artwork, or you looking at the artwork. It will be a very, very exciting night. They'll set up. Students will come from the different schools in the Copeland Family Fieldhouse, and then the public will be invited that night. And in closing, before Mr. Phelan talks about summer school, we're going to have a very exciting visitor to the Milton Public Schools. You'll all be invited, and he has sent a very tailored agenda. The Commissioner of Education, Commissioner Chester, is going to visit the Milton Public Schools on May 10th. He's been very flexible in his scheduling. We're a busy school district. I think our interest in our advocacy under Ada Rose Marin and Glenn Pavlicek's leadership for full-day kindergarten, the commissioner wants to see our full-day kindergarten program, and he wants to see Milton High School. And so I'll share with you his agenda. He keeps to a very tight timeline. He wants to meet with school committee members alone, parents alone, staff alone, students alone, and view our schools. So that will be very exciting, and we appreciate the commissioner's interest and wanting to visit the Milton Public Schools. I'd ask Mr. Phelan to give an update on a very timely topic that we're getting lots of requests from parents to hear about.
Sure, thank you, Superintendent Comey. Milton Summer Enrichment Program that we offer here at Milton High School is up and running. John Redden, who is our principal of the Cunningham School, will be the director of Milton Summer Enrichment for summer 2013. He will be emailing everybody tomorrow and letting everybody know in general what the course listings will be and when they become live and when people can register online. Right now, the target date to register online will be Friday, a week from this Friday, which is Friday, May 3rd. He has some exciting new programs that will be running, as well as the programs that have historically been very, very popular and successful for our students and families. So the when it happens is July 1 through August 1. It's going to be 4 days a week this year for those weeks running the summer with no classes on July 4th. The where is here at Milton High School. The time it is offered is you can take classes from 8 a.m. to 12 p.m. and you can take 1 class, 2 classes, 3 classes, or 4. They're all in hour increments. The who is John Redden. Again, he will be emailing the entire Milton community with the offerings for preschool students all the way through our high school students for this summer. It's also important to know that, as we mentioned earlier, that our extended year services notifications and Communications will be going out to all of our parents who will be getting services this year. We were a little creative with our programming this year, where we wanted to differentiate how we provided that service to our students. So we have programs that students take part in, and we have individual walk-in services. The programs for our elementary students will be held at the Collycott and Cunningham schools, because their rooms and their teachers and their specialized equipment is there, and it makes the most sense to benefit their services through the summer in that environment. Our middle school and high school students will be up here at the high school, and all of our walk-in students, elementary, middle, and high school, will get their services at the high school, because what we found in our feedback is that students that may need occupational therapy for a half hour, 3 days a week, or Wilson reading for 2 hours, 2 times a week, we're having a hard time getting that service over at the Collycott and getting back over here to access some of the Milton Summer Enrichment Program. So this is our attempt to provide some inclusionary opportunities for our students who get walk-in services, and have them be able to access that right in the building. So a mom or a dad or a guardian can drop off their child at summer enrichment with all students, and that child can then be escorted to get that service right at the high school with a certified special education teacher, and then brought right back down to access that program. So we're looking forward to that joint programming. Again, it's 4 days a week, and the special education services run 1 extra week, so that would be July 1st through August 8th. I also want to give notice to our community that those programs that we just talked about are shorter in nature, and for our families who would like more coverage or extended day coverage through the summer, our community schools program runs at Camp Cunningham all summer long for the majority of the workday. For parents that need that type of service throughout the entire summer and throughout the workday, 7 a.m. to 6 p.m. And our partners at the Park and Rec Department offer a program at Cunningham Park each year. So we want to make sure that all of our parents have access to this information. They can go on the Milton Public School website, the Milton Park and Rec website, to get all the information about all of our summer programming. We service almost 600 students in the Milton Public Schools alone, and with Camp Cunningham and Milton Park and Rec, I'm sure we're up to almost 1,000 students that are active throughout the summer. So we look forward to parents who have questions to contact us at Milton Public Schools, and if they have questions for Park and Rec, they should call Town Hall and ask for Paul D'Amato.
Anything else from the superintendent's report? All right then, thank you very much. And we'll move on. We had deferred the minutes, and so I'll entertain a motion to approve the minutes of March 20th.
So moved.
Second.
That's the joint minutes of the open budget hearing and the regular meeting that were held that night. Any comments, corrections, additions? Hearing none, we'll call for a vote. All those in favor? It's unanimous. Thank you. We'll also have entertain a motion for the approval of the minutes of March 27th.
Move approval.
Move Mr. Walker,
Second.
second by Ms. Sheridan. Any comments, corrections to those minutes? Seeing none, call for a vote. All those in favor? Opposed, and Ms. Kelly is abstaining, so it's 5-0-1, Ms. Kelly abstaining. Into my report, just briefly, we have a couple of committees that we're going to have to take a look at. I have been serving on the Master Planning Committee. That's actually a Moderators Committee, and my term is up through June 30th, so I'll stay at that meeting. The final Master Planning session is this coming Thursday night at 7 o'clock in the high school auditorium for people who are interested. At town meeting, there will be an article to continue the master planning process. Should that pass, there will be need for continued master planning committee next year. And so one of those positions on that committee is a school committee position. So if anyone is interested in that, please let me know. We'll get you, put your name in position to be appointed to that one. But as I say, I can handle it through June 30th since it's a fiscal year appointment by the moderator, unless someone else wants to take it over in the meantime.
Doing a great job.
The DOR fiscal management review, as you remember, we We co-authored a joint letter with the Board of Selectmen asking for one of these fiscal management reviews from the Department of Revenue. We have hit the top of the list. They are coming in the second week of May. May 9th, I think, is the initial meeting. Mr. Walker has expressed interest in representing the school committee on that. So unless there is objection,
I'm it.
you're it. And so I will send your name over to Town Hall as the official representative of the school committee on the DOR fiscal management review. The school building committee, Ms. Sheridan and I represent the school committee on the school building committee. Hopefully there will only be one more meeting of the school building committee to pay the final bill. Ms. Sheridan.
I think it's appropriate that you stay on, Mr. Pavlicek, even though you will no longer be on the school committee, to serve in that very important
To sign that last
position.
piece of paper?
Yes. You're the keeper of the numbers there, so thank you.
That was,
Kind of a proposal. Is it-
Second?
we'll take it as a motion.
Okay.
And it was seconded by Ms. Bagley Jones. Any discussion on that? I don't mind staying around for one more meeting. Without objection? Right, so that would be unanimous. The MEA Negotiations Committee appointment, this is one that came up in our last executive session as a matter of appointment, needs to be done in open session. Currently, the the negotiations committee is Ms. Padera, Mr. Walker, and myself. And the negotiations are not going to be complete, barring some unforeseen events, by the election next Tuesday night. So the issue is continuing appointment on the negotiations committee.
So why don't I take it from there?
Yes. Why don't
So I would move that we continue Mr. Pavlicek as a non-voting member of the bargaining subcommittee. I think the wealth of knowledge that he has in the history is invaluable at this point. And that certainly leaves room for another school committee member to certainly sign on if you wish, since we would then not have a quorum even if a third school committee member joined. But I'd like to move with as much urging as possible that we continue Mr. Pavlicek as a non-voting member.
Second that.
Ms. Kelly.
Mr. Pavlicek, you would like to continue in that role?
No, I would consent to do it.
Thank you very much. That's very generous of you. And I would certainly vote in favor of that motion. But I would also think that for any further appointments or considerations of appointments to negotiating committees, that be taken up after reorganization.
Yes.
Yes. And then the final piece on here is just,
I don't think anybody will be
that's-
banging the doors down to get on the
You
bargaining
never
subcommittee.
know.
We'll see.
I actually almost neglected to have a vote on that, so I will call for a vote. All those in favor? It's unanimous with one abstention. The last one is just an informational item. AFSCME Negotiation Committee, we need to appoint those negotiations need to begin. We do not at this moment have a negotiations committee. We have not, until this moment, made a call for people to volunteer. And probably it is something that should be appointed at the reorganizational meeting on May 1st, because this has some urgency to it. But I would ask if anyone is interested in serving on the AFSCME Negotiations Committee to let me know, and I will pass that information along for the May 1st meeting. So if
I'm
you're,
interested.
Mr. Walker is interested, if anyone else is, please,
It depends on when they meet.
please let me know. Okay. The other business item here, the school choice vote. As there was the brief open hearing tonight, Milton has a tradition of not participating in school choice. It tends to be, I have the list of school choice receiving districts. It tends to be more of a Western Mass thing than a Eastern Mass thing. It's an opportunity to share people between districts in many cases, because there are programs available in some districts that are not available in others, and so forth. Under Mass law, unless you opt out, you are a school choice district, and Milton has for the past number of years that I can't remember, chosen to opt out of the school choice program.
Move that we continue as a non-participant in the school choice program.
So-
Second.
So it's moved by Mr. Walker and seconded by Ms. Sheridan that we opt out of school choice for the fiscal year 2014. Any other comments? Ms. Kelly?
Just, and I forget how recently, but this was studied.
Last year.
Was it last year?
No.
No, I thought it was a couple of years.
2 years ago, I think.
Anyways, and definitely there is a financial component to opening up your seats to out-of-town students. But in the study, basically, we didn't think that it would fit with Milton at our present state in terms of having high class sizes, et cetera, so.
Exactly.
Seeing no other comments, I'll call for a vote. All those in favor? And that is unanimous, so we've opted out of school choice for the upcoming academic year. With that, I will move on to the Finance Subcommittee report. Ms. Kelly?
Can I just add something?
You may.
Your report? We didn't get a chance to say thank you to you, Glenn.
That's old business.
No, and I can say it now, right? It's
Yes,
the
you
I
end of
suppose I will
January,
recognize you.
Very
Just-
appropriate.
You're going to be very missed, and it's very appreciated that you're willing to still stay on these subcommittees. And, you know, you've had a very gentle giant leadership style about you, and it's really been appreciated, and you're really going to be missed by all of us. I know that. And, you know, you've just added so much to this committee. So I think we really should have a motion to say he can't leave. But thank you for staying on these committees and helping us out still, Glenn, because you're going to leave very big shoes to fill. So I just had to say that during your report. I didn't mean it literally. Thank you for letting me say that.
All right. So we'll move on to the Finance Subcommittee report. Ms. Kelly?
Thank you, Mr. Pavlicek. We have two motions that we'd like to put before you. The first is the approval of the First Amendment to Net Metering Power Purchase Agreement. Would the administration like to give a little history to this?
Yes. The school committee and the public remember that we were involved in an on-site solar panel project, solar panels on the top of our schools, huge energy saver. We then have been in negotiations on a second solar panel project that's an off-site. You can only do it on-site or off-site, so we're cutting edge here. And where we have a contract for an off-site project. And we were going to receive, the timeline has been pushed back and pushed back and pushed back. We report to Finance Subcommittee about this continually. And there was going to be a check that was going to be written from the company to the Milton Public Schools this year, and a rate adjustment in relation to that check. And working with Finance Subcommittee, we decided, and we have to recognize Amy Dexter from Town Hall, and Glenn Pavlicek worked with us also, that we're asking you to sign an amendment that really translated to the layman means we're going to wait till the project is complete, built, all the papers are signed, to start to benefit from the rate from the solar project. So in the original contract, there was going to be an upfront check again, and an adjustment that then had to be readjusted next year. So we're asking you to sign this First Amendment. Murphy, Hesse, Toomey, and Lehane sent to us. They have worked in collaboration with us, and it will bring it back to, we'll get the rate adjustment when the project is done. On behalf of the school district and the town, I think I can speak, Mr. Pavlicek, Mr. Walker, Mrs. Kelly, for Ms. Badera, for Amy Dexter, who advised us from Town Hall and legal and our auditor that that's the appropriate way to proceed. So I'd ask you to recommend to sign this amendment.
So I'd entertain a motion to authorize the chair to sign this amendment to the net metering power purchase agreement on behalf of the school committee.
So move.
Second.
Ms. Kelly?
And just so the people know, the vendor is Wildcat Solar LLC. And just to confirm, who we already have a signed contract with, and this is amending that contract, correct?
Yes, absolutely.
Any other discussion on this? Seeing
Well,
none?
move that we authorize the chair, this is an amendment to the motion, move that we authorize the chair to execute the agreement. That's really what we're doing.
Mhm. Sure.
That's what he said.
Hence that was where, I guess, the question. So are we just adjusting the present contractual language that has not yet been signed? Or is there a signed contract in place?
There is a signed contract.
Okay. There's a signed contract in place, and then we are essentially signing
Yes.
off on this
We're-
amendment.
We're authorizing the chair to sign an amendment to the contract.
Yes. Okay.
Power purchase agreement. All right.
So which motion are we talking about? Because I
I
think
think it's
Mr.
the one
Walker's
that
motion
authorizes
was-
the chair to sign.
It was a friendly amendment to your motion, or to whoever made the motion. Linda Lee, I
No,
guess.
well, Glenn said it, but
It's your motion, Ms. Sheridan.
okay. I accept your friendly amendment.
I'm not sure it's technically correct, because we're not signing the agreement, we're signing an amendment to the agreement.
Correct.
So I don't think you should be, I'm being less friendly than you were.
Okay.
I think the correct language should be to authorize the chair to sign the amendment to the power purchase agreement.
Isn't that what I said?
No, you said the agreement.
You said execute the
You
agreement.
said execute the agreement, which caused Ms. Keller to question.
Before us.
Well, this is the amendment, all right. To sign this.
Okay, let's
All
move
right,
on.
all those in favor? That is unanimous. Ms. Bagley-Jones is out of the room at the moment. Second item, Ms. Kelly.
Is,
That would be hard. Sorry.
The synthetic
That's okay.
turf.
yes. Thank you.
So we one short?
So this is regarding the replacement of the turf on the Copeland football field, which has been discussions for quite a time now. We have received notification from the Copeland Foundation that they will fund a certain amount of
$200,000.
$200,000?
$300,000.
That's what I thought it was, $300,000. And the contract itself, I think, is 450?
400,
451.
exactly.
451, okay. And so we have requested of the capital committee a $100,000 request to contribute to the funding of this field, and the remaining 51 we have been collecting over many years, a certain portion of fees for use of the field just for this purpose, to replace the field whenever that was necessary. Obviously, we haven't gone through town meeting, and town meeting has not authorized us to utilize capital funds as of yet. We're still hoping, going forward, that that's what they will do. But because of timing issues, i.e. we would like to lock in a schedule with this particular vendor so that he will be able to put down the field in a timely fashion such that our sports teams will be able to utilize it in the fall. We would like to have the school committee authorize the signing of this contract, understanding that a certain component of it is pending town meeting vote, but that if the unfortunate decision of town meeting is that they wouldn't authorize us, that we would have school committee funds available that would be taking away from other things that we definitely need to do, but that would be available to fund this contract, so that the rest of the school committee can be assured that we have that funding available.
So, the motion would be to authorize, again, the chair to sign the agreement for the replacement of the synthetic field, with the understanding that should it'll either be a cost of roughly $51,000 from the school revolving fund or $151,000 from the school revolving fund, depending on the vote of town meeting on the capital appropriation.
So moved.
The chair and/or the director of consolidated facilities.
Fine, yes, chair or I'm not sure who's signing this contract, whether it's the chair or the Consolidated Facilities Department. But we are certainly authorizing the expenditure of the funds.
Correct.
Should they be needed. Any other discussion on this? Well, did I hear a motion?
I made the motion.
All right.
You said it.
Second.
Second, Mr. Walker.
with
I didn't remember saying that out loud.
Second
so-
with my amendment.
Okay. Any other discussion? All right, hearing none. All those in favor? That's unanimous. We move on to the policy subcommittee, and Mr. Walker had added an initial item at the beginning about policy committee
Can I
operating
just-
procedures. Yeah.
Just have one more
Oh,
item.
sorry.
That's okay. We are still working on a presentation for town meeting that we may or may not need to present, but that we'd like to have available. And so at some point, hopefully maybe after next week's finance subcommittee meeting, we'll be able to send out to you folks sort of where we're at with that presentation and get your feedback.
Excellent.
Thank you.
Mr. Walker.
Mr. Chair, so I reflected quite a bit on our discussion at our last meeting about the policy subcommittee, about our approval of policies, and I think there were any number of legitimate requests and requirements, and I think as I thought about it, what we're trying to accomplish is to make sure that each committee member has the information that they need as they vote on policies. But at the same time, we want to make sure that the quality of the discussion at the school committee level is one in which we're focusing on what I'm calling an executive level review, and not on details that could be addressed earlier or in a different manner. So I'm going to read this and then ask that we discuss it, and hopefully, if it's the will of the committee, we'll approve it so that it's clear how we handle the discussion of policies and how those policies come to the school committee. The policy subcommittee will meet, and I'm going to give a little commentary on what the rationale was for each of these provisions. The policy subcommittee will meet on a regular basis, but not less than 10 times during the school year. This will usually be once per month. When the policy subcommittee meeting notice and agenda are posted, a copy of the agenda will be sent to each school committee member. So the idea here is to make sure that, one, that the policy subcommittee proceedings are accessible to all school committee members if they're so inclined. And second, that if there are particular policies that a member is interested in, that they're aware that that policy is going to be discussed at the subcommittee level. This will ensure that any member that is interested in a particular policy may attend the policy subcommittee meeting at which said policy will be discussed. In order to facilitate member attendance, at least 3 of the 10 meetings will be held in the evening. So obviously, it is difficult for some of us to get to any meeting during the workday, so this ensures that, again, if there's a policy that a particular member is interested in, they can certainly request that that policy be discussed at one of the evening meetings so that they can be accessible. Policies reviewed by the policy subcommittee will be presented to the school committee in the following fashion. And here I'm trying to distinguish between really 3 different types of things: new policies, policies where we make substantial changes, and then everything else. So new policies will be introduced to the school committee with a verbal description of the objective of and rationale for the new policy. Policies with significant revisions, which is defined as 25% or more of the text being revised, will be introduced to the school committee with a verbal description of the intent of the revisions and a copy of the revised policy with changes highlighted. Policies with minor revisions will be introduced to the school committee with a verbal description of the intent of the revisions, and policies proposed for elimination will be introduced to the school committee with a verbal description of the rationale for elimination. So in each case, we're trying to give the committee an understanding of how we got to where we are and what we're recommending. In general, the objective of these procedures is to ensure that the school committee review and discussion of policies stays at the executive review level, and that discussions of grammar, syntax, and sentence structure, also defined as the detail and getting into the weeds, that which is necessary to achieve the policy intent occur at the policy subcommittee level. It is anticipated that new policies may require as many as 2 meetings for approval, 1 for introduction and discussion, and 1 for subsequent approval. It is expected that all other policies presented for approval will usually be voted on at the same meeting. Once approved, these procedures will be incorporated into the policy adoption policy of the Milton School Committee. Questions?
So are you
Thoughts?
putting this forward just for discussion, or would you like to make it a motion that we
It's a
adopt?
motion, but I would expect some discussion.
I expect there will be, but let's put it forward as a motion. Mr. Walker, and is there a second? Second. All right. So discussion on this. Ms. Kelly.
So first of all, I appreciate the time and effort that's gone into this. Essentially, what you're proposing is a policy change, and in that it is, and following the guidelines that you've just presented, I would hope that a motion would not be made today, but that this would be the opening discussion at which further discussion and perhaps vote would be taken at a future point. I think we first need to start with what is the objective of these policies being reviewed? Is it purely to say that we reviewed them, or is it because something isn't working and we need to fix it? And I think that needs to sort of be the overarching way that we look at this. And I'm still unclear as to sort of how we got where we are today. And certainly if you read the policy that's in place for policy development, it's that once you've established the policies, which we did back in 2005, whatever the last time was, that they could be reviewed on a periodic basis, but there needs to be some sort of overarching goal out of doing that. And whether it's to wordsmith, which, certainly if that's something we want to entertain, that's fine, or is it really to review opportunities? Is it, maybe looking at other communities to see what policies are out there that might even help us guide the school system to get even better than we are? And so I would hope that we have a discussion on this tonight, and that at a future meeting, we would take it up further. And if the motion to change really what is policy development policy to this, that would be taken up at that time.
Well, I can speak to the why we're going through the policies. The policies that we currently have in place have an adoption date and a proposed reconsideration date. And that proposed reconsideration date goes back to 2010. So I think that when these were created, and this whole policy book that we have, it's about probably 3 inches thick with policies. We've been working on A and B, just 2 pieces of the documents, of the many documents that we have there this year, and that's, if we get through B, that will be all that we will have accomplished. So in 1 year, to get through 2 groups of policies, that's all we can accomplish. So my understanding is that when this policy book was created, it was created with the expectation that these policies would be revisited on a regular basis, not annual basis, but regular basis. And I believe at the time we spent about $15,000. That this predates me, but someone can probably help me with that. But my understanding is the cost to the school district for compiling that book and creating that document was about $15,000. So that's accurate. And, you know, we don't have those kind of resources to put out on a regular basis, to hire a consultant to come in and to review our policies. I personally don't believe that we have the funds to ask our attorneys to look at every single policy that we work on either, but that's certainly up for discussion. So I feel like what we're doing is, or what we've been trying to do, is due diligence in the process that was outlined to us by the documents that were approved originally back in 1998. And thoughtfully and methodically go through each policy and make a recommendation. I mean, we've spent countless hours on this. And so that's the overarching goal. The goal is to revise and to look at what we're doing as a district, look at the Mass General laws, and make those, changes as needed. We constantly get updates from the Mass Association of School Committees that highlights policies that need to be addressed, and when that comes, when we get that, we address those policies in a timely fashion. We don't wait until it comes up in our book. So it's been a very thoughtful and methodical process.
Ms. Kelly.
So I'm certainly not saying that it hasn't been thoughtful, and not that you've spent a lot of time. I guess my question is, to your point, when MASC or whoever, state law changes, that's the opportunity for us to either look at present policies and revise as needed, or create new policies as needed. Because at the bottom of our policy book, we said proposed reconsideration and gave a date, I'm not sure, almost to your point, that going through every single one of these policies, word by word by word, line by line by line, is the best use of the policy subcommittee's time. And I'm wondering if things like, reviewing our student assignment policy and refining the language around that and making sure that it's very clear to every member of this community what our policies are around those kinds of things might be a better use of time. Even if you look at the policy right now, policy BG, which I think you were proposing, it's vote to reapprove. It says, in general, policy revisions or new policies are suggested for adoption by the policy subcommittee of the school committee. I think there needs to be a reason behind why you would be suggesting edits. And I guess that's what I'm questioning as to what we're doing it. To your point, going back to the expenditure of resources, the reason we had to expend $15,000 for the consultant was because our policies were in shambles. And granted, we don't want to get to a point where our policies are in shambles, but there are support systems. I mean, MASC has policies online that we can look at that are their templates, basically, that we can access very easily if there's a particular issue that we would like guidance on. The reason that we had legal counsel basically review all of our policies before they were presented was because we wanted to make sure that the policies we were putting out there to the public were in line with any particular laws, et cetera. So again, I appreciate the efforts that have been made thus far. I am concerned that policies are being asked to be basically deleted, and I'm not sure that some of those policies, and I'll bring up again the school council policy that has been deleted by this committee, is in the best interest of having policies to guide not only the school committee, but the community we serve.
Any other discussion on this?
Yes.
Oh, Mr. Jones.
I think the amount of work that you guys have done, and I thank my blessed stars I'm not on the policy subcommittee, because the amount of work that you guys have put in is unbelievable. So I personally, if there's a reason to go through a policy, I think that that makes sense. I know that we've had new policies we've adopted over the last couple of years, and maybe we should really go back and look at those. Maybe the policy subcommittee, I don't know if this would be more work or less, to say, here are the sections we really do need to review for practical reasons. Because I applaud your effort to go through the ones that say should be relooked at by year, blah, blah, blah. I mean, I applaud you. But maybe, though, it makes more sense to go after the ones we really are concerned about, think need updating, or is the only way you can do that is by going through them all. That's what I was afraid of. Because that's, I mean,
I don't know how we get to those. So I guess it's a question of really what is the will of the committee in terms of reviewing the policies, and that's a decision that everyone should weigh in on.
Mr. Walker, I can see your.
So, it would probably be, it would be telling if we can't even agree whether these procedures I've proposed are a policy or a set of procedures. That would kind of sum it up. But I'm going to ask for a vote on this tonight. It's not that complicated. It is not a policy. It's a description of how we approach the development and adoption of policies. And I don't feel any desire to defend the work of the policy subcommittee. And for any member who wants to guide the work of the policy subcommittee or help prioritize, get on the policy subcommittee. And Ms. Kelly, we make a great team on the finance committee, and I'm proud of the work we do there. We don't agree on this. So I'm going to ask for a vote, and either we'll vote it up or we'll vote it down, and we'll move on from there. But I feel the need to get either an endorsement from the committee about how we're working, and I'm proud of what we've done. I'm proud of the leadership that Ms. Sheridan has provided, and I'm proud of the work that we've done. I do this for a living. I get paid to do this, so I'm doing it for free. So I don't feel any need to defend either what we're doing or how well we're doing it. So the committee should vote this motion up or down, and we'll move on from there. And maybe I'll continue my work on the policy subcommittee, or maybe I won't.
Ms. Kelly.
With all due respect, I appreciate that this is what you do for a living. But when you're asking a committee of fellow members who serve in the best interest of the community, and this document is not provided beforehand for thoughtful consideration before coming to the meeting, I think you're sort of going around what the purpose of this committee is.
Ms. Kelly,
yes.
This document represents a discussion that we have now had on the record 4 times at different school committee meetings. So if any of this looks unfamiliar to you, I'd have trouble believing that. We've discussed this 4 times. And the only reason that I've decided to write it down and ask the committee to approve it is because each time I think we have an agreement and we move on and we go do more work, then we have the same discussion all over again. So I just want to clarify what the committee wants.
And totally understand that. But again, I'll go back to being respectful of fellow members. If you're asking for a vote on a particular motion, it's something we've tried to put into practice. We try and put that on the agenda and give the appropriate materials so that members come to the meeting prepared to vote. I also would just mention that in a very short couple of days, the committee membership will change. And so I would again request and plead with my fellow members that this is something that should be put off till the new membership is created, and then we will determine what the pathway is going forward once the new membership have been brought to the table. And hopefully they will have time to consider this as well. I understand the urgency with which you're taking on this, and I appreciate all the time and effort that has gone into it. Obviously, we come at this from a different perspective. I also question, in previous development of policies, the administration has been involved. And
Administration's still involved.
Okay,
at
so
every meeting.
So on some of these things, and I guess I would bring up school site council, you asked for the opinion of the administration, and they said that they thought the policy around school councils should be removed from our policy book. Is that correct?
That's correct, because, and you weren't at the meeting, so it's unfortunate, but that's correct. And there's a law that requires us to have a school site council, and we thought that was sufficient. Sorry you weren't there, but yes, that's correct. And by the way, I would be embarrassed to burden a new incoming member with this. I'd be embarrassed.
Well, I'm sorry, again, I'm sorry that you feel that way, but I obviously have stated my opinion.
Anyone else wish to weigh in on this? There is a motion on the floor to approve these policy subcommittee operation procedures as distributed tonight. Seeing no further discussion, I'll call for a vote. All those in favor?
Sorry.
Those opposed?
Abstaining.
You're abstaining. So it's 4-1-0 with Ms. Bagley-Jones abstaining, so it passes. Any other business from the policy subcommittee for tonight?
Not tonight.
All right. Under old business, just two things very briefly. First, Ms. Padera's term is expiring as of tonight as well, so I want to thank her for her service.
Hopefully not for long.
Where's my
True.
Where's my party?
Got to serve 10 years to get a party.
I do want to thank her for her service this last 9 months, and with great hope that her service will continue to with us. And last, on sort of a point of personal privilege, it's been 9 years on this committee over the last 10. I've enjoyed this very much. I've had the privilege of working with wonderful people, both on the committee and in the administration and throughout the system. It's not for any desire to separate from all this that I do it. I just feel that its time has come for someone else to swing onto this committee and bring some new thoughts to it and so forth. As I've said before, I'm not a person who favors term limits, but I don't believe you own a seat either. So I think it's the right thing to do at a certain point to just say it's time for someone else to step in. And so I thank you all for the work we've done over the last however many years, from 9 months to 10 years. It has been a pleasure. And thank you to Mary. As I say, this my biggest regret is not be working with Mary 5 times a day. But as I say, she knows where I live, so and she has my cell phone. So I step off this, with a certain amount of regret, but not much. I mean, it's time. It's time to do that.
Glenn, I'd just like to add that we had a brief reception for you before this meeting today, and there was a wonderful gathering of friends and committee members that you've served with across the town on the warrant committee, on the school building committee, on previous school committees, and there's a general consensus that you, as Kristen so nicely put it, lead as a gentle giant. Your wisdom and your understanding of all things, your ability to cut through and really get to the heart of a matter, and lead with kindness and grace and extreme intelligence has been very comforting for all of us who have worked with you, and it's been our pleasure.
I would say that there's clearly something in the water in this building. Mary.
So I apologize, I was unable to make your reception, but I want to echo the sentiments here. It has been a pleasure to serve with you. Certainly over the many years, we haven't agreed on everything, but to the point. No, you lead with an amazing amount of composure and get the committee, or any committee for that matter, as you have served on many of them, to where it needs to be. And your dedication to this town is absolutely astounding. And, you know, for those fifth graders that were here, to look up to what you've done for this town and to aspire to do those types of things in whatever community they end up with, I think can only better the world, quite frankly. So thank you very much for your leadership and for your being a colleague on this committee for this many years. Thank you.
And I'd like to say on behalf of the students, the teachers, the administrators, we cannot thank you enough. And I said downstairs that Glenn's historical knowledge and his knowledge of municipal and school budgeting is second to none. And as I said, all due respect to every warrant committee member that was in the room prior, or now, what you've brought to the table, representing the town of Milton, lobbying for funds and for the Milton Public Schools, have made a difference. And my experience working with Glenn Pavlicek, if it's going to be good for Milton Public School students and it's going to move the Milton Public Schools, then you move it ahead. And as I said to the group downstairs, Glenn, in his role as chairperson, has given me phenomenal guidance. He listens, and his advice is always sage. And so on behalf of personal and professionally, I want to thank you from the bottom of my heart.
Thank you, Mary.
Any other citizen speak topic?
Modesty is another character. Glenn Pavlicek.
The next meeting agenda items, there is one, which is the reorganization for the next, at the next meeting.
And I would just like to say that that meeting is going to be held not here, but at the Pierce Middle School at the cable office. Is that what we call it? Cable office?
In that
Cable-
room?
I'm sorry? The cable TV studio.
Why is that?
Why? Because it's a lot of time and effort for them to set up all of this for just a reorganizational meeting. And we can go there, they can broadcast it live, he won't have to set all this up and break it all down.
And then we leave, or we don't stay for another meeting?
No, there's no meeting, it's just a reorganizational meeting.
Okay.
Would you like to stay for another meeting? We could add some to the
We
agenda.
can come back, we can come back here to the high school for the art show.
Oh, got it. All right, thank you.
Seeing no one here for citizen speak, I would entertain a motion to move into executive session for the purpose of negotiation strategy, specifically with the MEA and AFSCME, not to return to open session, but to adjourn directly from executive session.
So moved.
Moved by Mr. Walker, seconded by Ms. Sheridan. This calls for a roll call vote. Ms. Padera?
Yes.
Mr. Walker?
Yes.
Ms. Sheridan?
Yes.
Myself, yes. Ms.
Yes.
Beckley Jones? Ms. Kelly?
Yes.
Thank you all.